Chapter 762. Lu Chaoge had been very busy recently. The smartphone developed by Chaoyan Technology was in full swing. This phone would be equipped with Chaoyan Technology's unique Rubik's Cube energy technology, which would surpass all smartphones on the market by 3 to 5 times in terms of battery life. For example, the battery of an Apple phone could only be used for 1 day, but Chaoyan Technology's solar panel could be used for 3 to 5 days. Would this be an unexpected surprise for those who looked down at their phones all day long? Of course, it was not enough to just have a strong battery life. The counterfeit factory in Shenzhen had long been able to make smartphones that didn't need to be charged for a week or even half a month. But have you heard of their name? Nokia, the mobile phone overlord of the past. Can you still see them now? They also had to put more effort into other functions of the phone, striving to achieve a price that would allow consumers to accept, but also allow consumers to accept. Therefore, the motherboard, hardware, and built-in software of this phone were all studied and communicated by Lu Chaoge's team one by one. She hoped to be able to create a phone with fighting power and appeal in the market. After a meeting with a design group and finalizing the appearance of the phone, Lu Chaoge stretched her waist and walked to her office with the finalized manuscript. The secretary, Xiao Meng, followed closely behind and seized the time to report to her. She said, "Chairman Lu, when you were in a meeting, Wanda Energy's President Zhang came to visit. I said you didn't have time today, so I helped you decline." Longtu Group's President Jiang called. "I said you were in a meeting and asked if you needed to call her back. She said no, and Mr. Fang also called." Lu Chaoge's footsteps didn't stop. She walked straight into her office, sat down on the office chair, and took a big sip of the black tea that was just the right temperature. She looked up at Xiao Meng standing in front of her and said, "Fang Yan?" "It's Fang Yan, Mr. Fang," Xiao Meng said with a smile. "He said that no one answered your phone, so he asked me if you were busy." Lu Chaoge took out her phone from the drawer, and there were 2 missed calls. Fang Yan's number was displayed on the phone. "What did he say?" Lu Chaoge asked while playing with her phone. "He didn't say anything. I said you were in a meeting, and he said he wanted to treat you to dinner tonight." Lu Chaoge looked at the time on her phone and said, "What's next?" "There will be a meeting in 10 minutes. Xiaoming opened the notebook in her hand and said, "It's a meeting about the energy industry." Yen Yunlin, the deputy director of the National Department of Energy, invited Chairman Lu to attend. Thinking of the old man who always looked at her chest with his triangular eyes, Lu Chaoge's mood became bad. Although that man couldn't do anything to her, she didn't like his gaze. You can't scold people just because they looked at you a few times, right? If that was the case, what she had to do every day was to scold people desperately. Lu Chaoge's cold face and voluptuous body had indeed caused her a lot of trouble, especially during business negotiations. The other party's gaze was always on her face, and it was only under her repeated reminders that the progress of the project could continue to move forward. "Let Qin Shi attend the meeting on my behalf." When Lu Chaoge thought of this, she immediately made a decision. She wouldn't attend the energy meeting. Instead, a deputy director of Chaoyan Technology would deal with the officials. Anyway, Qin Shi was a member of the Qin family. Even if Yen Yunlin didn't like him, he wouldn't dare to put on airs in front of him. At most, he would complain that Chaoyan Technology didn't care enough about the policy. But Director Yen said that, "Just say I don't have time." Lu Chaoge pushed away her chair and stood up. "It's decided. Call Director Qin. I'll go back first." "Okay, Director Lu." Xiaoming hurriedly agreed. Seeing that Lu Chaoge was about to walk out of the office, Xiaoming added, "Director Lu, say hello to Mr. Fang for me when you see him." Lu Chaoge paused, turned to look at Xiaoming and said, "I may not see him." After that, she quickly walked out of the office. Xiaoming looked at Lu Chaoge's back and laughed. She whispered, "Principal Lu will only be so excited when Mr. Fang comes back. Otherwise, you wouldn't have left such an important meeting early." After a pause, she said, I don't know when Mr. Fong and Principal Lu will get married. Many people in the school are asking about it. Everyone wants to attend their wedding. Of course, Lu Chaoga didn't hear Xiaoming's gossip. After she went downstairs, the guards led by Qi Ning and Fang Yingying immediately crowded around her. Fang Yingying was bragging to Qi Ning, saying that he was the third master of Swallow Fort, and that he was the best after Fang Yen and Yi Rou, and that he was the face of the Prince Charming team of Swallow Fort. Such stupid words that no one would believe. Seeing Lu Chaoga coming downstairs, he suddenly jumped up and rolled in front of Lu Chaoga like a ball, saying, "Sister, where are we going now?" Lu Chaoga glanced at Fang Yingying and asked, "Did Fang Yen call you?" "No." Fang Yingying looked confused. "Is Junior Marshal Uncle back to Huaqing?" "Maybe." Hearing Fang Yingying's answer, Lu Chaoga's mood inexplicably became happy. After Fang Yen returned to Huaqing, he didn't call Fang Yingying, but only called her, and even said that he wanted to treat her to dinner. "Junior Marshal Uncle is too much, he didn't even call me when he came back." Fang Yingying immediately acted very sad and indignant. "If Sister Lu didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known. Where is he now?" Sure enough, after Fang Yingying said that, Lu Chaoga's mood became even happier. "Maybe at home," Lu Chaoga said. When Fang Yen returned to Yanjing, he left Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan in Huaqing. Fang Yingying stayed by Lu Chaoga's side, while Fang Haohan volunteered to go to Du Qing's side to protect Li Ye. Fang Yingying was lively and jumpy, and his way of doing things was very similar to Fang Yan's. One who stays close to ink will be stained black. Therefore, when Lu Chaoga saw Fang Yingying, she always felt very close, and even liked this chubby big boy a lot. "Then are we going home now?" Fang Yingying asked with a smile. Lu Chaoga nodded and said, "Home." The group of people went back in 3 separate cars. The cars stopped in front of the villa, and Fang Yingying ran over to help open the door. Lu Chaoga got off the car, and saw that the villa's house was lit. Lu Chaoga's face didn't change, but there was a romantic feeling in her body. She deliberately suppressed her excited steps, and tried to walk slowly and naturally. Just like before. Opening the door of the living room, she saw a man wearing an apron busy in the kitchen. There were already several dishes on the dining table in the dining room. Scrambled eggs with tomatoes, braised trout, shredded pork with bamboo shoots, and cordyceps duck soup. They were all her favorite dishes, and it looked like the dinner was very sumptuous. Lu Chaoga walked behind the man and said, "Let me do it?" Fang Yen turned around, looked at Lu Chaoga, smiled, and said, "That won't do. I've already said that I'll treat you to dinner tonight. Besides, you work so hard, and I get so much money every year, but I idle around all day and do nothing. Isn't it natural to make a meal for you to please our big boss?" Lu Chaoga raised the corner of her mouth and said, "It's not like you did nothing. If it weren't for you, there wouldn't be the current Chaoyan technology. Even if it weren't for me, there would still be Chaoyan technology." Fang Yen poured the eggplants into the oil pan, letting them sizzle as they were soaked in the oil. He looked at Lu Chaoga with a serious face and said, "The Rubik's Cube was left to you by your parents, no one can take it away. With the Rubik's Cube, there will be Chaoyan technology." Lu Chaoga knew that Fang Yen wasn't willing to accept her gratitude, so she looked at Fang Yen and said, "How are Grandpa and Auntie's health?" Fang Yen shook his head and said, "My mom's health is fine. She grows vegetables and reads books every day, and even goes to my dad's grave to talk to him for a while. I didn't think they had such a deep relationship before, and I rarely saw them talk to each other. It wasn't until my father passed away that I realized that the feelings of their generation were all hidden in their hearts. Once it's shown, it's like a huge flood stunning people. I'm so envious." Lu Chaoga also sighed. She thought to herself, if the feelings of their generation were like this, what about the feelings of our generation? "My feelings for you, are they hidden too deeply? So deep that even a smart person like you can't see through them? What's there to be envious about?" Fang Yen smiled bitterly. "My dad is already gone. The more my mom misses my dad, the harder her life will be. I'm afraid that her body won't be able to take it. Right now, I hope that my mom's feelings for my dad will fade a little, so that she can start a new life. You're not a fish, how can you know the happiness of a fish? Lu Chaoga said softly. It seemed like she was explaining something for Fang Yan's mother, but also for herself. Even if that person isn't by your side, and you have nothing to rely on in your heart, you have to live with some spirit. At least, there's someone in your heart and you're willing to live for him. Fang Yan sighed heavily in his heart, then said with a smile, I might get married. Chapter 763. The air seemed to have frozen, only the crackling sound of the eggplant could be heard. After a long silence, just as Fang Yan was about to say something to break the silence, Lu Chaoga spoke first. She looked at the eggplant in the pot and said, Quickly turn the pot, it's going to burn. Fang Yan quickly turned around, picked up the spatula and began to cook. Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yan's back and said, I'm a bit tired, I'm going to take a shower upstairs. Okay, come down to eat later. Once this braised eggplant is done, we can eat. Fang Yan waved the spatula and poured the chopped green onions and green peppers into the pot, while speaking with his back facing Lu Chaoga. I'll be down soon, Lu Chaoga said softly. After turning around, Lu Chaoga's face became gloomy, and her eyes lost the attractive luster when she just came back. Returning to her room on the second floor, Lu Chaoga closed the door and locked it. She pulled all the curtains on the window tightly, making her room an independent dark world. She took off all the clothes on her body, took off her underwear and panties, and just like that, she walked into the bathroom naked. Splash! She turned on the faucet and the natural hot spring water of the perfect temperature poured down. Lu Chaoga stood under the faucet, allowing the water droplets to hit her head and body. Her skin was so white, her skin was so tender, her chest was so full, her thighs were so full, her body was so perfect there was no flaw on her body. She must be God's favorite child, because when God made her, He added 100% beauty and 100% wisdom. However, this didn't make her mood a little better. She felt very depressed, as if there was a big stone pressing down on her. She felt that her heart was very uncomfortable. This kind of uncomfortable was indescribable. When she was still a young girl, she was able to face the person who killed her parents every day without revealing any flaws. She was able to manage thousands of students in a school, and she was able to develop an energy company that had been established for less than 5 years into a billion-dollar market. However, she just couldn't handle her feelings well. This was truly torturous. It made people toss and turn, it made people feel pain and entangled. Originally, she thought that her heart was already dead, but since when did she regain a new passion? Perhaps it was from the first day he met Fang Yan. What are you doing? No. Let's talk this out. Don't be rash. Even if you're impulsive, you can't beat me. Do I look like an idiot? No, you look delicious. It was the first time that the man she hated so much had displayed such amazing talent. That mean, black-bellied, arrogant guy who did not even put her, the vice principal, in his eyes, but he was able to stand up for her when she was in the most dangerous and helpless situation. Everything she had today was given to her by Fang Yan. Without Fang Yan, she would have been dead a long time ago. She knew very well that she was no match for Jiang Zhulu and Qiang Longtan. She knew even more clearly that they were no match for the willow tree and the Lu family behind it. Apart from them, there were other enemies that were eyeing them from behind. They opened their bloody mouths and could pounce on them at any time. Fang Yan said that she had nothing to do and was idle all day. How could it be like this? If it wasn't for him, would Shangxin be willing to be a chess piece that was controlled by them? Would Lu Shu be willing to be a mad dog that could pounce on anyone at any time? And how could an ambitious man like Lan Shanggu tolerate himself taking orders from a woman? However, even if she lost everything, she wouldn't feel too bothered. She was ambitious, but not blinded by benefit. She wanted to build a giant commercial ship, but she was willing to give it to Fang Yen. Her dream back then was to be a good teacher and a good principal who could nurture more outstanding students. That was all. If Fang Yen didn't need her anymore, what was the point even if she had the world? In the past, I lived for Fang Yen. What am I going to live for in the future? Lu Chaoga thought to herself, I want to be the best person in the country, the best person in the world. But I will still be alone. Splat. The water droplets hit Lu Chaoga's face and body, as well as her slightly cold heart. When Fang Yen told her that he was going to get married, he actually wanted to tell her that she shouldn't wait for him anymore. He was going to get married. He was being kind, but she didn't need to appreciate his kindness. I like you, but you don't want me to like you. Can I still like someone else? After Fang Yen finished eating, he removed his apron, washed his face and hands, and sat at the dining table to wait. When Fang Yingying sneaked in, he almost drooled when he saw the table full of food. His eyes were red as he looked at Fang Yen, sat down in front of him and said, Junior Marshal Uncle, you're finally back. You've been gone for so long without any news, I'm always worried that something might have happened to you. Smack. Fang Yen hit Fang Yingying's hand with his chopsticks and said, Get out. Fang Yingying's hand was red, but he still insisted on stuffing a piece of braised eggplant into his mouth and said with a wronged expression, There's so much food, you two can't finish it. Fang Yen sighed and said, We need to talk about something. It's okay. I'll eat, you guys talk, I won't disturb you. Fang Yingying wanted to reach out his hand to grab more food. Seeing Fang Yen looking at him with a playful expression, Fang Yingying felt a bit guilty and pulled his hand back. He said, I'll go out to eat, the food outside is also delicious. After saying that, he lifted his butt and ran out. Fang Yen sighed and waited for Lu Chaoga to finish bathing and go downstairs to eat. Lu Chaoga took a long time to bathe this time. After half an hour, she came downstairs to eat in a white set of home clothes. She sat across from Fang Yen and took the initiative to help Fang Yen fill a bowl of cordyceps soup. She said, Have a bowl of soup first, it's a southerner's habit. Fang Yen took the bowl of soup and took a sip. He said, It's rare to have such an authentic soup when I go back. Fang Yan's mother was a southerner, so she was good at making soup. Fang Yan's cooking skills were learned from his mother. However, he didn't have many meals at home since he went back to Beijing, so he didn't have many opportunities to drink authentic soup. If you were in Huaqing, I'd make soup for you every day. Lu Chaoga lowered her head to drink the soup and said casually. Fang Yen squinted his eyes and smiled. He said, I'm always busy with all kinds of things. It's not easy to stay in one place for a period of time. If you were in Huaqing, I'd make soup for you every day. Lu Chaoga repeated. Although the words used in the two sentences were similar, the meaning expressed was very different. Fang Yen nodded and lowered his head to drink the soup. Our phone is almost ready. This is Chao Yan's first phone. Recently, the people in the company have been giving this phone a name. Some say Humiao, some say Chao Yan, some say Taiyang, and some other weird names. Do you have any suggestions? This. Fang Yen put down his chopsticks and thought for a while. He said, I can't think of a better name in such a short time. You're better at this kind of thing, so I'll let you decide. The model of the phone has been decided. I'll get someone to bring the prototype to you after the assembly is complete. Okay. I'll try it first. Chao Yan's other businesses are developing well, and the supply of energy products is not meeting the demand. Lanshan Valley and Willow are taking in more and more goods. Will it be dangerous? Don't doubt the people you use, and don't use the people you doubt. Fang Yen said with a smile. Let them be the vanguard. Anyway, the technology is in our hands. It's just that we have to give priority to the Qin family. After all, the Qin family is our major shareholder. I think so too, Lu Chaoga said. Jiang Shangxin is very interested in controlling the Longtu group. She has also shown the wisdom and ruthlessness that a member of the Jiang family should have. Fang Yin nodded and said, when the Jiang family rejects her, we'll use her. When the Jiang family accepts her, we'll replace her. I believe that you'll be able to control the degree. Do you think she can still return to the Jiang family? The Jiang family. Fang Yin thought for a while and said, I don't dare to say for others. If the old fellow from the Jiang family personally talks to her and treats her to a bowl of dumplings that he made himself, maybe she'll change her mind? After all, her surname is also Jiang. But her father, that was done by Qiang Longtan and Jiang Zhulu. Her hatred might have been exhausted by the Jiang family. You don't trust her? Fang Yin looked at Lu Chaoga, who was sitting opposite him, and said, apart from you, it's very hard for me to trust anyone else. Lu Chaoga lowered her head and finished the soup in her bowl. She wiped the corners of her lips with a napkin and looked at Fang Yin, who was sitting opposite her. With an extremely sincere and serious tone, she said, Me too. We trust each other. Fang Yin said with a smile, You should drink some wine. No, I'm different from you. Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yin with bright eyes and said. Fang Yin looked into her eyes. He was a little expectant, but more than that, he was afraid. He knew what she wanted to say. He understood this woman. They could even say that they were friends who had gone through life and death together. He saved her life, and she did not hesitate to give him the commercial aircraft carrier that she had painstakingly built. I'm different from you. Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yin and said, Apart from you, it's very hard for me to fall in love with anyone else. Chapter 764. Apart from you, it's hard for me to fall in love with anyone else, Lu Chaoga said seriously. It seemed that in her heart, there was nothing more serious and important than this in the world. She confessed. Was this a confession? In the end, she still said it. Although she knew that it wouldn't end well, after saying it out, her depressed mood was relieved a lot. The big stone in her chest shifted a little, at least she could breathe normally now. However, after she had done this, her heart was filled with guilt. She put down the chopsticks in her hand, like a child who had done something wrong. She looked at Fang Yin, who had a gloomy expression, and said, I know I'm being selfish by doing this. You purposely rushed to Huaqing, especially made such a sumptuous dinner, and then told me that you're getting married. I already understood what you meant. I'm not stupid, and I'm a very scheming woman, right? I know you don't want to hurt me, you don't want to make me wait for too long, you want to solve this problem in a relaxed and casual state. Yes, I have to admit, I've become a problem in your heart. It's not like that, Fang Yin wanted to explain. Fang Yin, just like how you understand me, I also understand you. Lu Chaoga interrupted Fang Yan's words. Her feelings were actually the same as Fang Yan's. Fang Yin didn't want her to get hurt, and she also didn't want to put Fang Yin in a difficult position. You know my feelings for you, so you've been avoiding talking about it. It's good to avoid it, at least it won't make our relationship so awkward, at least there won't be a gap between us, and our cooperation has always been so tacit. But now, you've met your destined lady, the woman you want to spend the rest of your life with. You're getting married, and this is something to be happy about. As your friend and business partner, I should say congratulations. Actually, when I heard this news, my heart was very heavy, and I felt very depressed, as if I couldn't breathe. But I still want to congratulate you. You must have chosen a very outstanding woman. You like her, and she also loves you deeply. You two are a perfect match. You are also very outstanding, Fang Yin said in a deep voice. Yes, I'm also very outstanding. I've always thought so. Lu Chaoga smiled and said, After my parents passed away, I was alone. She ate alone, slept alone, read alone, traveled alone, went abroad alone, and then came back to Rosefinch. Under the watchful and guarded eyes of the men, fighting for power with them, Many times I wonder what my life would be like if I hadn't returned from America, if I hadn't entered Rosefinch Secondary. She listened to the Jiang family, married the son of her enemy, and pretended that she never knew about those things. Or was he killed by the father and son of the Jiang family because he resisted, and his body was thrown into the sea? But that is only if. I came to Rosefinch, and you also came to Rosefinch. We met, and you saved my life again and again. You changed my life, and because of me, you changed your own life. I even think, if it wasn't for me, perhaps your father wouldn't have died. This has nothing to do with you. Don't think too much. Fang Yen stopped her. Fang Yen, I can't help but think. I know how much trouble I've brought you, and I know how many enemies I've brought you. The Rubik's Cube is a devil that tempts people to commit crimes. It makes countless people covet it, and it makes them do the craziest and most inhumane things. I can't protect it, and it has always been you who has been protecting it. Many people wonder why I said that Chao Yen is your Chao Yen, she should be your Chao Yen. How much you've sacrificed for it, and how much effort you've put in. Those people don't know, but I remember it in my heart. So, during the 3 years you were gone, no matter how difficult it was, no matter how dangerous it was, I gritted my teeth and persevered. I told myself, Lu Chaoga, you must hold on. They want to defeat you, and they want to take away the Rubik's Cube from your hands. This Rubik's Cube is not only the blood and sweat of your parents, but also the blood and sweat of Fang Yen, because they've sacrificed too much for it. Before I met you, my biggest dream was to avenge my father. I've been looking for an opportunity to let the father and son of the Jiang family get what they deserve, but I know better than anyone that I'm no match for them. If I show even the slightest flaw, I might be killed by them. Do you know? I've even prepared to accept Jiang Julio's proposal. Because only then I can have the chance to do what I want to do. And only then can I let down the Jiang family's guard against me. Can you understand that? I've endured that kind of vigilant gaze every day, as if they're guarding against a thief, for more than 10 years. Every day, every year, it's the same. In fact, I've already given up all hope. I know it's hard for me to fight against the father and son of the Jiang family, but at that time you appeared. You gave me the courage to refuse, and you also gave me the hope to avenge my parents, and indeed, you helped me do it. You may not be able to imagine how happy I was when Qiang Longtan and Jiang Zhulu got the punishment they deserved, when the part of Longtu group that originally belonged to my parents returned to me, because it meant that my parents could finally rest in peace in the underworld. They could finally heave a sigh of relief, close their eyes quietly, and rest for a while. When they saw that I was living in my enemy's house, they must have been so worried that they couldn't sleep well, right? Fang Yen, I'm 29 years old this year. If I can only live to 60 years old, I've already lived half of my life. The first half of my life, I lived for revenge, but what am I going to live for in the second half? In the past, I thought that I wanted to build an economic empire for you, and I wanted you to have the strength to fight against any enemy. No matter if your opponent was the Jiang family or any other family, Chao Yen would always be your strong shield. I wanted Chao Yen Technology to become the world's #1 energy company, and I wanted you to become the richest man in the world. I thought I could do it, and I never dared to slack off. Because this is what I promised you, so I must do it. Actually, you don't have to do that? You don't have to work so hard? Lu Chaoga smiled bitterly and shook her head. Fang Yen, apart from this, what else can I do? My parents are gone, and my aunt is also gone. I don't have any relatives in this world, and even my friends are pitifully few. Tell me, what should I live for? People have to do something when they're alive, right? They have to have some spiritual support, right? Don't worry, I'm not telling you this to make you change your mind. Lu Chaoga had a slight smile on her face, as if she was laughing at herself for saying such words and doing such things. When a man told you that he was going to get married, she jumped out and said that she liked him, loved him, sacrificed so much for him, and was pitiful and lonely. This kind of behavior was really unforgivable. I've said it before, the woman you choose must be an excellent woman, and it must be the woman you love deeply. No matter what, I still want to say my blessings to you, Fang Yen. I hope you will be happy and blessed. Thank you, Fang Yen said gratefully. But, since I said such words and did such things that are hard for people to accept and understand, I still want to ask. I know that if I don't do this, I may not have another chance in the future. Is this the last time I ask you to stay? Or is it an attempt? No matter what, Fang Yen, I want to ask you, do you like me? If it's possible, I think it's good for us to get married. You can focus on what you like to do, and you can pursue the martial arts you want. I'll take care of your business, give birth to a few children, clean up your house. We can live here, or we can buy a bigger house. I know what kind of food you like to eat, I know what kind of flavors you like, I remember every single one of them. We can live together, not alone, alone after work, alone for dinner, alone for TV, alone for sleep, alone for wake up, alone for shopping, alone for couples accessories. Chowga. Fang Yen tried very hard to open his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. Say, okay, let's get married, get off work, eat, watch TV, sleep, get up, go shopping together, buy couples accessories together. Say, let's get married, you'll give birth to my children, clean up my house, and take care of my life, and make me the happiest man in the world. Or say nothing, walk over, and hold her tightly in his arms. Fine beads of sweat began to appear on Fang Yan's forehead, and even his legs began to tremble. This was the most difficult choice he had ever encountered in his life. Whether in the past or in the future, there shouldn't be a moment more difficult to choose than this one. Lu Chaoga nervously waited for Fang Yan's answer, waiting for his final choice. But when she saw that he was even more nervous than she was, she began to feel sorry for him. Why did she have to make things so difficult for a man? She pushed the chair away, stood up, walked over to Fang Yan, and leaned over to kiss Fang Yan's lip. She desperately asked for it, putting her lilac tongue into Fang Yan's mouth, twisting and stirring. A long time passed. She pushed Fang Yan away, panting, and said with tears in her eyes, Fang Yan, I know your answer. This time it's true. I wish you happiness. Chapter 765. Lu Chaochao had been gone for a long time, but Fang Yan was still sitting at the dining table without moving. Love is fulfilling, but love is also a risk? Love is being together, but love is giving up? His heart was in a mess. Fang Yan had never experienced a more difficult choice than this, and he had never encountered something more heart-wrenching than this. He had expected this scene, but he still underestimated Lu Chaoga's persistence. Fang Yan thought that after he told Lu Chaoga that he was going to get married, Lu Chaoga would still expressionlessly say, Is that so? Congratulations. Because he knew Lu Chaoga, he knew her modesty, was familiar with her self-control, and knew how proud a woman she was. How could she be like an ordinary woman and try to retain a relationship? How could she do something so lowly? But she did it, frank and direct, without any disguise. Lu Chaoga. Fang Yan's heart was heavy, repressed, and also a trace of joy. As a normal man, who could completely ignore a confession of this level of beauty? Fang Yan asked himself in his heart, with an extremely serious attitude. His feelings for Lu Chaoga. What were they like? Do you like Lu Chaoga? Lu Chaoga was like a ripe fruit, beautiful, cool, and full of elegance. If it was just based on appearance, any man would find it hard to refuse the favor of such a beauty. Lu Chaoga was very smart, and it could even be said that she was quite intelligent. She controlled a huge energy empire. When Chao Yen technology was just starting out, when Fang Yan left watching because of mourning, she relied on her own strength to deal with various forces, and encountered countless attacks and assassinations. Until now, she was still alive, and she made Chao Yen technology grow rapidly. Although it had the support of the Qin family behind it, if it didn't have a powerful ship commander, Could this commercial giant ship expand so drastically? Lu Chaoga was not weak. Perhaps in many people's hearts, she was known as a schemer. It was also for this reason that he had some conflicts with Fang Yan back then. Fang Yan felt that he was being used, so he rationally distanced himself from the relationship between the two of them, positioning Lu Chaoga as an ordinary friend or business partner. But did he do it? Could he accept Lu Chaoga's selfless sacrifice as a matter of course? Could he take everything she gave him without any scruples? Tangible assets or intangible power? Could he simply and crudely close his eyes and ignore Lu Chaoga, who was living a lonely life? Apart from herself, she had no other relatives in this world, not even a single friend. If he pushed her away, what would happen to Lu Chaoga in the future? Could she still live as usual? Could she still live? The sweat on Fang Yan's forehead increased and became denser. He clenched and unclenched his fists, loosened and clenched them again. He couldn't do it. Fang Yan couldn't take it for granted, couldn't be unscrupulous, couldn't be simple and crude, and couldn't let Lu Chaoga live alone like an orphan. Whoosh! Fang Yan suddenly pushed the chair away and stood up. He strode toward the stairs, his speed getting faster and faster. He rushed to the second floor and rushed to the door of Lu Chaoga's room. Bang bang bang, Fang Yan knocked hard on the door. The door was closed and no one answered. Lu Chaoga, open the door, open the door. The door was still closed, and the person inside seemed to have disappeared. Lu Chaoga, open the door for me. If you don't open the door, I'll hit the door. As Fang Yan spoke, his body slammed heavily against the door. Fang Yan was an expert in the martial arts world. Although the heart of Tai Chi had disappeared, he was still an expert under his heavy impact. Even though the door of the villa was made of solid wood, it couldn't withstand it. Kacha, the door broke, and an irregular hole appeared in the middle. The lock was broken, and the door opened. Fang Yan rushed into Lu Chaoga's room and shouted, Lu Chaoga, not in the living room, not in the bedroom, not in the balcony, not in the bathroom. Fang Yan's heart sank. He ran outside and shouted, Lu Chaoga, Lu Chaoga, Lu Chaoga, where are you? Lu Chaoga, come out quickly. He clearly saw her go upstairs, so how did she suddenly disappear? Fang Yan searched all the rooms on the second floor, and then ran to the rooftop of the third floor. When he ran to the third floor, Lu Chaoga was standing on the rooftop with her back facing the railing. She looked at the anxious Fang Yan running over. Her shoulders twitched, and tears streamed down her face. When I was 5, I liked to play hide and seek with other children. Lu Chaoga's eyes were wet, and she said in a choked voice, Once, I ran to the abandoned laundry box in the attic to hide, and my friends couldn't find me. After the sky turned dark, they all went home. I fell asleep in there alone. Lu Chaoga looked up at the sky, trying her best not to let her tears fall. She tried her best not to let Fang Yan see her crying, because when she cried, her whole face was red, and she felt that she was very, very ugly at that time. Later, I was woken up by my parents' shouts. They called me just like you did just now. They were worried that I would disappear. That was the deepest memory I have of them. After they left, there was no one else, no one was worried that I would suddenly disappear, and no one was like you just now, looking for me and shouting my name loudly. Lu Chaoga's crying became louder and louder. She shyly covered her face with her hands, and the flood of tears flowed out from the gaps between her fingers. Fang Yan. Lu Chaoga's voice was sorrowful, and she said, Don't leave me alone. Otherwise I don't know why I'm still alive. You idiot woman. Fang Yan's eyes were blood-red. He strode over and hugged Lu Chaoga's trembling body tightly in his arms. Live, of course you have to live. If you don't know why you're alive, then live for me. Fang Yan's arms exerted all his strength, almost squeezing Lu Chaoga's plump and soft body into his own. If you die, what will happen to Chaoyan technology? What about the Rubik's Cube that your parents tried so hard to leave for you? What about the Longtu that Auntie exchanged her life for? And me? What about me? And me? What about me? If you're not here, who will help me take care of Chaoyan? If you're not here, who can suppress the hatred in Lu Shu's heart? If you're not here, who can help me monitor the ambitions of Lan Shan Valley? If you're not here, how can I balance the power of the Qin family? If you're not here, where will I have the capital to fight against a colossus like the general family? Fang Yen, if you're not here, who's going to take care of this villa? If you're not here, who's going to make my favorite food? Who's going to make my favorite cordyceps soup? Fang Yen, kiss me. Lu Chaoga was already out of breath from Fang Yan's embrace, but she still raised her head from Fang Yan's embrace and called out weakly. Fang Yan lowered his head, found Lu Chaoga's lips, and kissed her fiercely. Lu Chaoga also responded forcefully. Their tongues stirred with all their might, fighting passionately. It was as if tomorrow was the end of the world. Fang Yan sucked the sweetness from Lu Chaoga's mouth, and his nose smelled her enchanting body fragrance. Her body was so soft, like a ball of cotton candy. Fang Yan's hands wandered around Lu Chaoga's body, stroking her slender waist, and then moved to her plump and perky buttocks. Because he didn't have much experience, and subconsciously felt that this was a very attractive part, so he rubbed it very hard, almost crushing Lu Chaoga's buttocks. Lu Chaoga's body temperature was also rising. She didn't feel any pain at all, she felt like she was about to melt. Her legs had no strength, so she hooked her arms around Fang Yan's neck, letting Fang Yan bear all her weight. Her mouth was still blocked by Fang Yan's, and their tongues were entangled. Her breath was heavy, emitting a fragrant smell and seductive moans, and the sound was longer and longer, and each time more painful than the last. Was the best aphrodisiac in the world. Because of the excessive passion, the sea of qi in his dantian once again burned. First it was a little bit of starlight, then it became a prairie fire, turning into a vast sea of fire. Fang Yan's face was flushed, his mouth was dry, and he felt like his body was about to explode. He wanted to conquer, he wanted to release, he wanted more softness. Fang Yan suddenly picked up Lu Chaoga's body from the ground, took 2 steps forward, and then pressed her back against the railing on the roof. His hands were no longer satisfied with patrolling her back, he began to attack the front. Rip! He crazily tore the coat on Lu Chaoga's body, the thin fabric was torn to pieces without any resistance. Lu Chaoga's delicate shoulders were exposed, and her snow-white breasts that were bound by her black underwear were also exposed. The black gauze tightly wrapped the two softness, and the black ribbon outlined them into the world's most perfect figure. They were high and swollen, proudly displaying their extreme seduction, even if they wanted to reject it. This large mass of snow-white tenderness stimulated Fang Yan's blood. He let out a roar that sounded like a wild beast seeking a mate. The sky was dark. When Yu Yer, who had just revealed a corner of her face, saw this scene, she quickly pulled a cloud in front of her to cover her blushing face. Chapter 766. Women often scolded men as animals that thought with their lower bodies. Women would tell countless lies in their lives, but this sentence was absolutely true. However, one thing that needed to be corrected was that most men were animals that thought with their lower bodies, except for those old people who had lost their sexual ability. The fire was burning and the desire was roaring. Fang Yan's body temperature was getting higher and higher, and his face was getting redder and redder. Even his body had begun to emit a hot smoke. His body and forehead were dripping with sweat, and his hair and clothes were already soaked with sweat. Lu Chaoga, who was being pressed against the railing by Fang Yan, finally noticed Fang Yan's abnormality. She hugged Fang Yan's head that was buried in her chest and asked anxiously, "Fang Yan, what's wrong with you?" "Fang Yan, hot." Fang Yan's voice was dull, and his tone carried a scorching heat wave. She didn't notice it when she was under the control of lust, but now that she was sober, Lu Chaoga felt a burning pain in her body, as if a red-hot iron was tightly attached to her skin. Her skin was tender and white, especially her chest, which was softer than the softest dough and whiter than the whitest snow. However, after Fang Yan's rough and somewhat violent torment, squeezing, twisting, and burning, her body had already turned green and purple. It looked as if Fang Yan had a penchant for SM, and the beautiful woman at home had just suffered inhumane torture. Fang Yan, are you okay? Let me see. Lu Chaoga wanted to push Fang Yan away, wanting to see what had happened to Fang Yan. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't push Fang Yan away. How could her strength be compared to Fang Yan, who had already fallen into a state of madness? While she was pushing Fang Yan with all her might, Fang Yan desperately moved his body closer to hers. He was a piece of burning coal, and Lu Chaoga's body was the glacier that he longed for. Demand. Desperately searching for more. Fang Yan's body knew what it needed, and he was working hard to find it. In this way, Lu Chaoga had to work harder and harder. She couldn't hold down Fang Yan's head. She couldn't push Fang Yan's body away. Her clothes were torn to shreds by Fang Yan. His shirt had long since fallen off without a trace, and the pants underneath were also in shreds. It was difficult to conceal the most private and most enchanting sight. The strap of the black underwear had been torn off because Fang Yan didn't know how to untie it. In other words, he didn't have the time to look for the buttons at the back. With a flick of his finger, the extremely flexible shoulder strap snapped. The broken elastic strap rebounded and hit her smooth and fleshy shoulder, leaving a clear red mark. It wasn't very obvious, and it was difficult to find without light. Fang Yan. Lu Chaoga had already confirmed that something had happened to Fang Yan. She was very worried and hugged Fang Yan's body tightly. She shouted anxiously, "Fang Yan, calm down. Fang Yan, don't be impulsive." Because of the current state of the two of them, Lu Chaoga didn't dare to stop them loudly or ask for help. She could only try to lower her voice to comfort Fang Yan. If the bodyguards in the courtyard were alerted and Fang Yingying and Qining ran over, she wouldn't have the face to see them. "Fang Yan, where do you feel uncomfortable? Tell me you feel uncomfortable there, hot." Fang Yan's voice was dry and hard, as if it was very difficult for him to spit out the word. Right now, Fang Yan was indeed in a very difficult and painful situation. The sea of qi in his dantian spun wildly and turned into a black hole. The large burning sea of fire turned into a fire hole. The fire didn't stop but rolled up the black hole and continued to burn. It was as if the whole black hole was burning and burned into a red hole. It was as if it could burn through the sky, burn through the sea, and burn people's stomachs out of sight. Fang Yan now felt the burning pain in his stomach. It was 100 times more painful than being pricked by a needle or being stabbed by a knife. It was a continuous pain, and the pain was increasing exponentially. The next pain was always more painful than the previous one. What was worse was that it wouldn't make you feel numb or numb. It was always there, burning your flesh, your bones, every drop of blood and oil in your body. Fang Yan. Lu Chaoga knew that Fang Yan was in pain and asked anxiously, "What can I help you with? I'll get you some water. I'll take you to a cold shower. Your body is very hot, it will burn." Fang Yan didn't seem to hear what Lu Chaoga said. He was just doing what he wanted to do according to his most primitive and wild will. He had already torn off Lu Chaoga's underwear. The silk underwear was simply too fragile. Even if he didn't use any strength, it would still be easily torn to pieces. Lu Chaoga's body was already without any protection. In the process of Fang Yan's persistence, she also understood what Fang Yan needed right now. She stopped struggling and twisting. She just stretched out her arms and gently hugged Fang Yan in her arms. "Fang Yan, if you want, I'll give it to you," Lu Chaoga said in a low voice. "Some things, if the direction was wrong, the more you tried, the worse it would be. For example, the current Fang Yan. Fang Yan was a virgin. He was a virgin. He had no concept of this kind of thing at all. Although he had been baptized by some educational films, the actual battle was still very different from the process of imagination. Lu Chaoga felt Fang Yan's anxiety. She reached out and guided Fang Yan into her body. Ah! She softly let out an extremely suppressed moan. The two people's souls and bodies were completely fused together. Fang Yan hesitated a little. He felt that he had entered a strange environment. Then, he began to crazily attack like a storm. At this time, Fang Yan was like a burning beast, full of lethality and aggression. When Fang Yan opened his eyes, the room was dark. Only a glimmer of light from the gap between the curtains proved that it should be daytime at this moment, and not night as he imagined. Fang Yan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He felt that his throat was filled with sand. Every time he said a word, those words were absorbed by the sand, and he could not spit them out. Fang Yan wanted to get up, but found that all the bones in his body had been removed and cleaned. It was sour, painful, and had a different lubricating feeling than before. He climbed up with difficulty and pulled a pillow to lean against his back. Then, he tried hard to recall what happened last night. Lu Chaoga disappeared, and I went everywhere to look for her. Fang Yan remembered this scene very clearly. He could even remember his anxiety at that time. She was on the rooftop and I hugged her. I seemed to have taken off her clothes and I kissed her chest. Her chest was very white and her breasts were very big. My body was getting hotter and hotter, as if my body was about to explode. Creak! The door of the room was gently pushed open. Fang Yingying tiptoed in, closed the door, and turned around. His eyes met with Fang Yan, who was sitting on the bed. Fang Yingying's expression was strange, and then he rushed over with a face full of surprise, hugged Fang Yan, and cried, "Junior Marshal Uncle, you finally woke up. I was worried to death. I was really afraid that you would never wake up again. If that was the case, how would we live? I was also afraid that after you woke up, you would become a vegetable, and you would need someone to take care of you. Fang Haohan is stupid and lazy. He definitely wouldn't be able to do such a thing. At that time, the responsibility of taking care of you would fall on me alone. You say, why is my life so bitter?" Fang Yan stared straight at Fang Yan and said, "I slept for a long time." "Not very long." Fang Yingying wiped his tears and said with red eyes, "I only slept for 3 days." 3 days. Fang Yan's head began to ache. He thought it was something that happened last night. How did he sleep for 3 days? In these 3 days, what happened? Yes, you've slept for 3 days. We were all worried. Junior Marshal Uncle, don't be anxious, we can take our revenge slowly. I know that you are under a lot of pressure. I know that you want to avenge the family head as soon as possible. I know what the heart of Tai Chi means to you, the disappearance of the heart of Tai Chi. We are even more anxious than you are. But you must stay calm. You are the head of our Fang family. The head of the family is no longer here, and the teacher hasn't returned. If something unexpected happens to you, how can the teacher and my mother's bodies bear it? Our whole family, we've all broken up. Without you, would the Fang family still be the Fang family?" Fang Yan looked at Fang Yingying with dull eyes and said, "Is my situation very serious?" "Very serious." Fang Yingying nodded very seriously. "When we saw you, you were lying there naked. Look at your eyebrows, your beard. They were all burnt. Your hair was standing up like a roasted hedgehog. I was really scared at the time. I thought that you had gone mad from practicing. Junior Marshal Uncle, the heart of Tai Chi is all about naturalness. Don't forcefully touch it, otherwise you will be harmed. Where did you see me?" Fang Yan asked in a low voice. This was the question he was more concerned about. "On the balcony of the 3rd floor." Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yan thoughtfully and said, "Junior Marshal Uncle, this time's explosion was even more powerful than last time. Last time you only blew up your own clothes, this time you blew up Sister Lu's clothes." Chapter 767. Fang Yingying didn't notice the change in Fang Yan's expression. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. Junior Marshal Uncle, did you realize something again? Did your heart of Tai Chi come back to life? I knew it. Last time, it was because of the resonance with Mr. Music Addict's music that your clothes exploded. Is this the same as last time? Where did you and Sister Lu resonate? After a pause, Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yan with a puzzled expression and said, Junior Marshal Uncle, why are you looking at me like that? What kind of expression should I look at you with? You just recovered from a serious illness and just woke up. Shouldn't you be very happy and excited to see me, your only family? I'm very happy. Fang Yan nodded and said, That's good. Fang Yingying was relieved and continued his path of seeking death. You haven't answered my question yet. Where did you resonate with Sister Lu? You have to answer this question honestly, because I have a bet with Qining. A bet? Fang Yan's eyelids drooped and he asked aloud. Yes, I said that Junior Marshal Uncle must have realized something about life and nature when he was talking with Miss Lu. That's why the sudden explosion happened. Not only did his clothes explode, but Miss Lu, who was standing with you, was also affected. Qining said there was more to this matter. It was definitely not as simple as the heart of Tai Chi coming back to life. I asked him what the secret was, but he couldn't tell me clearly. Fang Yan looked at Fang Yingying and asked in a hoarse voice, Fang Yingying, what do you want to know? I don't want to know anything. Fang Yingying's expression stiffened and he said, Junior Marshal Uncle, you and Miss Lu, are you okay? Fang Yan was silent. Fang Yingying was a very smart man. He must have guessed something. The Jews say that there are 3 things which cannot be concealed: a cough, poverty, and love. The more you hide it, the more obvious they will be. The more you want to stop coughing, the more you will cough. The relationship between Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga was like a coughing fit that the two of them were desperately trying not to expose themselves. That endless concern, that considerate and warm care, that softness when they looked at each other, that probing and telepathic connection between their words, how could all of these be completely concealed? Fang Yingying could see it, Qining could see it, and so could the others. Lu Chaoga visited Lu Gong several times a year with a whole team of guards. Didn't those people have any doubts? What about her? Fang Yan asked. After he woke up, he didn't see Lu Chaoga. Did something happen to her too? Sister Lu went to the company early in the morning. She's been very busy lately. I was supposed to go out with her, but she asked me to stay and watch over you. She said to call her as soon as you wake up. Sister Lu works very hard every day. She works very late every day before coming back. Fang Yan nodded. He could understand the intensity of Lu Chaoga's work. She was the one in charge of the huge Chaoyan technology. Although the Qin family also sent a large number of elites, they were still the elites of the Qin family. She had to use their abilities and guard against their ambitions. How to balance the two was a very difficult thing in itself. Besides, the energy industry was becoming more and more prosperous, and Chaoyan technology was also changing with each passing day. As Chaoyan's industrial layout grew larger and wider, Lu Chaoga would have more and more things to do. Although there was a saying that the superior had to work hard, at least you had to have reliable people around you. Chaoyan technology was a high-end energy industry, and the Rubik's Cube technology was the life of the entire Chaoyan. From the day Chaoyan was established until now, it had only been a few years. In such a short period of time, who was the confidant you could really trust? It took time to do things, and it also took time to judge people. Do you want to call Sister Lu and tell her you're awake? Fang Yingying asked. Fang Yan shook his head and said, No need. Junior Marshal Uncle, go get me a glass of water. Okay, Junior Marshal Uncle. Fang Yingying trotted to Fang Yan and poured a glass of cold water. Fang Yan took the glass and drank it in one gulp. He looked at Fang Yingying and said, I'll take care of it. I know. Fang Yingying nodded repeatedly. I have faith in Junior Marshal Uncle. There's nothing in this world that you can't take care of. Song transplanting rice was so bad *SS. But didn't he get killed by Junior Marshal Uncle with one shot? Fang Yen waved his hand and said, I'm going to rest for a bit. You can go now. Okay. Call me if you need anything. Fang Yingying got up and left. When he got to the door, he turned around and looked at Fang Yen. He blinked his big eyes and said, Junior Marshal Uncle, although I've done something like informing Miss Yi before, you have to believe in my character. I definitely won't betray you this time. Scram. Fang Yen said. Okay. I'll scram right now. Fang Yingying turned around and ran away like a fat rabbit. Fang Yen put the cup of water on the bedside table and began to think of a solution to this matter. I should talk to her first, Fang Yen thought. When Fang Yen heard the car outside, he knew that Lu Chaoga was back. He got up from the bed and peeked through the gap in the curtains. Fang Yingying ran like a lackey to help open the door. Lu Chaoga, who was wearing a silver uniform, came down from the RV. She first stretched out a foot, then her slender, plump, and beautiful leg. Her hair draped over her shoulders, and the tail of her long hair formed a phoenix tail shape. Her facial features were delicate and flawless, her skin was as cold as snow, and the tailored uniform cleverly outlined her curvaceous body. She was charming and had an excellent temperament. This woman, Fang Yen thought. She became her own woman. Lu Chaoga walked to the middle of the courtyard, stopped, and looked at Fang Yan's room on the second floor. Fang Yen knew that she couldn't see him, but he could still feel that their eyes met in the air. He didn't have to wait too long before Lu Chaoga pushed the door open and came in. She looked at Fang Yen, who was sitting on the living room sofa with a cup of tea, and asked, Are you feeling better? Much better. Fang Yan's throat was still a bit uncomfortable. After drinking a cup of water, he dampened the sand a bit, but the sand was still in his mouth. When he spoke, he could feel the sand rubbing against the inner wall of his mouth. You were in a bad situation. I don't know Kung Fu, so I don't know what happened. Lu Chaoga spoke very slowly, carefully choosing her words in her mind. She tried her best to avoid mentioning that incident, but there were some things that needed to be explained. Your body suddenly exploded, and you suddenly fell to the ground. I was very worried, so I called Hero and the others to help. I know. Fang Yen nodded and pushed the brewed tea in front of Lu Chaoga. You slept for 3 days, I know. Lu Chaoga held the teacup and drank the water, not knowing what to say. Fang Yen also held the teacup and drank the water. His body was like barren soil, needing a lot of water to nourish it. Since he woke up, he had drunk 8 cups of water. The two of them didn't say anything, and the room was quiet. In the past, Fang Yingying and Qin Ning liked to play around in the courtyard, but today they noticed something and also became quiet. The whole world was quiet. Fang Yen slowly finished the cup of tea, put the cup in his hand on the coffee table, looked at Lu Chaoga and said, I know, before the explosion, something else happened. Fang Yen. Lu Chaoga hurriedly stopped him. I did all of this voluntarily. I don't want to make things difficult for you. I know you have a woman you like, I know you're going to get married, but I still can't control my emotions, and I still don't want to give up. Everything is my fault, don't take it to heart. Let bygones be bygones. I can't, Fang Yen said, shaking his head. Lu Chaoga's face was full of guilt and self-blame, and said, Fang Yen, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I lost control of my emotions at that time, and that's why the things that happened later happened. It's my fault. I'm still blaming myself. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have burdened your heart. Please. Pretend that nothing has happened. Pretend that it's all a dream. When you wake up, pretend that nothing has happened. Pretend that it's all a dream. Okay. Fang Yen, I beg you, I know your choice, I don't want to hurt anyone. Don't say you're sorry. Fang Yen looked at Lu Chaoga with a serious expression and said, I've thought about it, I like you. Fang Yen. So, don't blame yourself, I'm the one who should blame myself. Don't say you're sorry, I'm the one who should apologize. But, I won't pretend that nothing happened, and I can't pretend that it was a dream. Although there was an explosion in the end, I was awake when I hugged you, I was awake when I kissed you, even when we had sex, I still had my own consciousness. I know what I did, and I know why I did it. I won't blame everything on the natural combustion of the heart of Tai Chi, and I can't blame my own selfishness and cowardice. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to me. I like you. Fang Yen looked at Lu Chaoga, and said with a serious expression, "From now on, you are my woman." Chapter 768. From now on, you are my woman. This slightly domineering statement moved Lu Xiaoga to the point where tears welled up in his eyes. All the guilt and self-blame in her heart, the indescribable grievances, and the questioning and judgment of her character, all kinds of emotions blocked her heart, making it difficult for her to breathe. However, Fang Yan's "I like you" was like a powerful bomb, blowing all the negative emotions in her body into pieces, and then disappeared without a trace. Fang Yan was unconscious for 3 days, but Lu Chaoga suffered for 3 days. She looked forward to Fang Yan waking up, but she was afraid that Fang Yan would wake up, because she didn't know how to face Fang Yan next. She wanted to give herself more time to prepare, so she handed Fang Yan to Fang Yingying and asked him to watch over Fang Yan. She also asked him to call her as soon as Fang Yan woke up. She was afraid that when Fang Yan woke up and saw her first, both of them wouldn't know how to break that moment of awkwardness. She avoided it first, and when she came back, at least she had made enough preparation and thought about what to say. She understood Fang Yan's choice, and she also knew her position. And she could only treat it as a dream. This was her destiny. In the past, in the future, she would be alone forever. However, the development of things was beyond her expectation. Fang Yan didn't escape, he didn't fear, he didn't pretend to have amnesia. He remembered everything, and he was willing to bear all the responsibility. He was willing to bear it with her. In this kind of thing, it is always men who take advantage. Men are cowardly and run away, and then let women bear all the blame and consequences. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoga and said with an unprecedented serious expression, "You also know that I am not a man who refuses to take advantage of others. My code of conduct and moral bottom line have always been very low, but I won't deny it and I can't deny it. I won't pretend that nothing happened. As I told you just now, I like you, and you are my woman now. I like your beauty, I like your figure, I like your sexiness, I like your intelligence, I like how you remember every dish I like to eat, and I like how you treat me well. I need you, and Chao Yan also needs you. I don't want you to be alone. I have experienced that feeling. During the 3 years when I was guarding my father's grave, I almost didn't talk to anyone else. I felt that I was the only living being in this world, no one to share your happiness, no one to comfort you when you are sad, but in fact, I know that I have people who really care and care about me. My mother is still here, my grandfather is still here, and all of you are still here. My loneliness is something I have forced upon myself, because every single one of them wants me to come home as soon as possible. But you are different. If you are lonely, then you are truly lonely. I cannot bear to let you live like this alone, without even a little support and warmth in your heart. I like you, and you like me, and we had sex, so you don't have to apologize and blame yourself anymore. If you need to apologize and blame yourself, then let me do it. Whether you did anything wrong or not, you are my woman now, so you should let me bear all of this. Fang Yan, this will make things very difficult for you. I know you are in a difficult position in the middle." Fang Yan reached out to grab Lu Chaoga's hand and said, "Everything is difficult, but I still have to do it. Only by doing my best can I not let down the deep love you have for me." Fang Yan, actually, you don't have to do anything. I've already thought it through. I'll stay in Huaqing for the rest of my life. I'll live in this apartment. I'll help you look after Chao Yan. I'll help you make it the biggest energy company in the world. If you're willing, give me a child. If you are not willing, I will live here alone. I will have a lot of things to do, I will be very busy every day. Lu Chaoga held Fang Yan's hand tightly and said, I understand your feelings, I know you are there, you also like me, you didn't leave. At that time, I won't feel lonely. Fang Yan shook his head and said, Leave this matter to me, I will take care of it. After a pause, Fang Yan said, I will talk to her. Seeing the worry on Lu Chaoga's face, Fang Yan comforted her. Don't worry. Wen Qing is a very good person. I'm afraid that she will hit you, Lu Chaoga said in a small voice. Fang Yan exploded again. Just like the last time at the Maple Leaf Club in Beijing. His clothes had exploded and he had run around in a circle with his buttocks bare. This time, his situation was a bit better than last time. First, when his clothes exploded, he wasn't standing in the middle of the crowd. Secondly, at the moment his clothes exploded, he was already naked. Therefore, this result of the explosion was acceptable to Fang Yan. However, after the explosion, Fang Yan couldn't help but think about another question. Why did it explode? Just like Fang Yingying's question. Did I explode because I realized something? Or could it be that he had unlocked some new skills? After he woke up, he carefully tried to feel the heart of Tai Chi. Still nothing happened. What was different was that the unbearably hot gas in the middle of his Qi Si was gone. In other words, even if Fang Yan wanted to forcibly use his Qi, he wouldn't have to endure the pain of being burned. Fang Yan's Qi Si also disappeared along with the volcano. That's right, Fang Yan's Qi Si also disappeared. The area became empty and became a deep, transparent hole. Strangely, the Tai Chi fish were still there. The black and white Tai Chi fish swam back and forth in the transparent hole as if they were alive. However, was this change good or bad? Why hadn't the heart of Tai Chi awakened yet? These days, Fang Yan had been thinking about this question, but because he didn't have the experience of others, he couldn't figure out which one was right. Longtu Building. A champagne-colored Bentley stopped in front of the building. The bodyguard in the passenger seat quickly jumped out to open the door for the man in the back seat, but the man had already opened the door and got out. General Xing looked up at the majestic building in front of him and said to Li Guochang, who was beside him, I came here a few years ago. At that time, Longtu Group was like the sun in the sky, and it was the most promising energy industry in the whole of Huaqing. After a few years, Longtu Group has become a thing of the past. On the other hand, Chaoyan Technology, which was established not long ago, is thriving and has become the leading energy company in Huaqing and even the whole of Huaxia. Li Guochang sighed softly and said, Qiang Longtan was an ambitious and ruthless person, but he didn't expect that he would die in such a humiliating way, and his only son would be sent to prison. I have to say, Fang Yan is really ruthless. It's fine if he doesn't make a move, but once he does, he tortures people to death. The Jiang family has completely collapsed. Other than Longtu Group, the other properties of the family have been cleanly divided up by others. It's said that the Ren family wanted to get involved, but one of their legs was broken by Fang Yan. Only that poor woman, Ren Jin, begged everywhere to get her son out of prison. The problem is, who would give her face now? Jiang Zhulu can only sit in prison for a long time. General Xing shook his head and said, The flag on top of the city wall will be changed. I don't know if the flag of our Jiang family can be placed on top of the city wall of Longtu Group. Li Guochang smiled and said, It depends on whether Miss Shangxin remembers the old times. No matter what, she has the blood of the Jiang family flowing in her veins. No matter how she denies it, she is a member of the Jiang family. As long as she agrees, things can be done. After all, the power of Longtu Group is in her hands now. She owns the shares of both Jiang Zhulu and herself, so she has a lot of say. It's hard to say. General Xing shook his head and said, Why? Does Senior Master not think highly of this trip? If she has the intention to return. General Xing pointed to the building in front of him and said, Does she need to set the meeting place here? Isn't she just worried that Fang Yan's men will find out and misunderstand? Maybe it's to appease Fang Yan? Miss Shangxin's way of doing things is sly and changeable. It's really hard for us to guess her intentions before we meet her. Yes, we came with sincerity. Let's see if she knows what's good for her. General Xing smiled and said. After Jiang Junling was banished and disappeared, General Xing was the most important young man in the Jiang family. He was the person who carried the flag of the Jiang family. He personally came to Huaqing to meet Jiang Shangxin. Jiang Shangxin naturally couldn't put on airs and brought her secretary to the elevator to welcome him. Brother! Jiang Shangxin went forward and held on to General Xing's arm happily. She smiled and said, "Why are you willing to come to Huaqing to see me?" General Xing looked at his younger sister, who was getting more and more beautiful. He sighed and thought that Jiang Zhulu was really unlucky. Since you don't want to return to the Yen capital, I can only come to Huaqing to see you. Why? Are you not willing? Of course I'm willing. Jiang Shangxin smiled and said. It's best if you can stay in Huaqing in the future. In that case we can see each other often. I want to stay in Huaqing, but I have to get Grandpa's permission first. Moreover, Shangxin is guarding Huaqing for us. As her brother, it doesn't matter if I'm around or not. Am I right? Jiang Shangxin giggled but didn't respond to General Xing's words. Miss Shangxin, long time no see. Li Guoqiang also greeted Jiang Shangxin with a face full of smiles. They were already familiar with each other in the Yen capital. Guoqiang, long time no see. You seem to be looking good recently. Miss Shangxin's complexion is really good and she's getting more and more beautiful. What's that saying again? A person is more beautiful than a flower. Isn't that right? Chapter 769. The three of them sat down in Jiang Shangxin's office. The secretary served them tea and left respectfully, not forgetting to close the office door. Jiang Shangxin looked at Li Guoqiang and said with a smile, "If someone else were to praise me like this, I would think that they were trying to flatter me. However, I don't think that Brother Guoqiang is a man who likes to lie." "Brother Guoqiang, you are getting married soon, right? I heard from Wang Pei and the rest that you and Jiang Yuzhen are getting married soon. The women from the Jiang family are not bad, right?" Li Guoqiang smiled blissfully and said, "That depends on whether young master agrees. If he agrees, we can get married tomorrow." Li Guoqiang wanted to marry into the Jiang family. He was determined to follow the general. General Xing waved his hand and said, "If I could make the decision, I would let you guys get married tomorrow. However, the elders in the family should speak for such matters. Furthermore, you guys have only been engaged for a few days. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by others?" "What's there to laugh at? It's natural for me to be anxious to marry a wife." The three of them chatted and laughed for a while. The atmosphere became livelier and the barrier in everyone's hearts gradually disappeared. Li Guoqiang then went into the main topic. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and asked, "Shangxin, are you going to settle down in Huaqing?" Jiang Shangxin knew that everyone was going to be honest with each other. Leaning back slightly, she crossed her right leg over her left leg and got into a defensive stance. Smiling, she said, "How can you be so sure about such things? However, now that transportation is so advanced, what's the difference where I stay? Even if I stay in Los Angeles, I can get to Yanjing in the blink of an eye." Li Guoqiang knew that Jiang Shangxin was avoiding the core of his question and didn't want to hide it anymore. He took the initiative to get to the point and said, "Shangxin, what do you think if the Jiang family buys the shares of the Longtu Corporation that you are holding? Logically speaking, this is a private matter of the Jiang family. As an outsider, I shouldn't interfere. However, didn't Shangxin say that Yuzhen and I are getting married soon? We will be a family in the future. Even blood brothers should settle accounts clearly, and it's the same for blood siblings. If you have any conditions, please state them. I believe that the eldest young master and the Jiang family will do their best to satisfy your reasonable requests. Brother Guoqiang, aren't you treating me like an outsider? You've already said that we're a family. What's the difference between me taking control of the Longtu group and the family taking control of the Longtu group? Am I not a member of the Jiang clan? Jiang Shangxin's words were sharp, and he did not dare to admit defeat easily. I said the wrong thing. Li Guoqiang patted his mouth lightly and said with a smile, "Of course Shangxin is a member of the Jiang family. It was like that in the past, and it would always be like that. Was there a more intimate relationship than the inheritance of flesh and blood? However, Shangxin had misunderstood my intentions. When I said that the Jiang family wants to buy the shares of Longtu Group from you, it was to compensate you personally. You married into Flower City on your own, and you've experienced many things. It wasn't easy for a girl to maintain the family business by herself. She was a member of the Jiang family, so she could give everything she had to the Jiang family for free. But it's not fair to you. Young master must not feel good about it either. Don't you think so?" "Brother Guoqiang, I didn't misunderstand your intentions. I just feel that it's strange. Since you said that I'm a member of the Jiang family, then can't I just take care of the Longtu group? Why did we have to talk about buying it and giving it away? Don't tell me that the Jiang family suspects that I'm not on the same side as them and will do something that will harm the Jiang family's interests?" Li Guoqiang took a glance at General Xing and thought to himself, "This sister of yours is very difficult to deal with." General Xing continued to drink his tea with a smile on his face, as if he hadn't heard the conversation between the two of them. Seeing that General Xing did not speak, Li Guoqiang had no choice but to continue negotiating with Jiang Shangxin. He said, "Shangxin, you know the current situation very well. The Jiang family and Fang Yan are like fire and water. The old master would rather chase Jiang Junling out of the Jiang family than propose a reconciliation. Do you really want to stand on Fang Yan's side and become enemies with the Jiang family? This is a matter between the Jiang family and Fang Yan. I'm only in charge of taking care of my Longtu group. There's no conflict, right? However, most of the shares in the Longtu group are in the hands of Fang Yan and the rest." Li Guoqiang looked at Jiang Shangxin's gentle and charming face and said, "The reason why you're able to sit firmly in the position of Longtu group is because of Fang Yan's trust, right? So, just because I have Fang Yan's trust and because Fang Yan asked me to manage the Longtu group, I can't manage the Longtu group for the sake of the Jiang family? I need to let go of everything that I have now?" "That's not what we meant." Li Guoqiang denied this statement and said, "Even if you sell the shares to the Jiang family, the Jiang family will still appoint you to be in charge of the affairs of the Longtu group. This is because it should have been yours to begin with." "What if Fang Yan doesn't agree at that time?" Li Guoqiang grinned and said, "That will depend on how you consider it." Jiang Shangxin's gaze stopped on General Xing's face. She smiled and said, "Big brother, how do you think I should answer this question?" General Xing couldn't remain a bystander anymore since Shangxin had forcefully dragged him into this. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and said sincerely, "You haven't been back to the Swallow capital for a while. Grandpa wanted to have a good talk with you, but he didn't want to call you back just because of this. He knows that you have been busy recently. However, everyone in the Jiang family still treats you as a member of the Jiang family." Jiang Shangxin looked at Jiang Shangxin and said sincerely, "You haven't been back to the Swallow capital for a while. I know that you have some prejudices against the Jiang family. I know some of those things, and there are some things that I don't know about. However, just because you have conflicts and prejudices, are you no longer a member of the Jiang family? Are you prepared to stand on the opposite side of the Jiang family on your own? Have you thought about the future? The battle between the Jiang family and Fang Yan. It seems like Fang Yan had the upper hand in the beginning. However, at that time, his opponent was only Jiang Junling, a member of the Jiang family. Now, a long time ago, his opponent was the Jiang family, the entire Jiang family. Based on Grandpa's character, would he tolerate Fang Yan slapping the Jiang family's faces and kicking their butts? General Xing's gaze was sincere and his attitude was amiable. With a worried look, he said, "You have a good relationship with Fang Yan, and Fang Yan supports you in controlling Longtu. In the short term, this is very beneficial to you. However, when the Jiang family really launches an attack on Fang Yan, when the Jiang family tramples on Fang Yan, what will you do then? Shangxin, you can reject me. You can also tell me that you will consider it again. However, have you thought about how you will answer Grandpa's question if he personally talks to you about it?" Seeing that Jiang Shangxin was silent, General Xing patted her shoulder and stood up. He said, "I still need to stay in Huaqing for 2 more days. You have 2 days to consider. Shangxin, no matter what, we are a family. Your surname is Jiang, and the blood of the Jiang family flows in your body." General Xing looked at Li Guoqiang and smiled. "Guoqiang, let's go back first. Let Shangxin have some peace and quiet, okay?" Li Guoqiang stood up as well. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, "Miss Shangxin, don't put yourself in danger. It is not easy for women to do things, and it is even more difficult to do things well. Think about it, Fang Yan has only been working hard for a few years. How can he be compared to the Jiang family, who have lived for hundreds of years? If the Jiang family really wants to take action, it is just a matter of charging forward. I will consider it carefully." Jiang Shangxin nodded and said. Jiang Shangxin stood up and sent General Xing and Li Guoqiang to the elevator. General Xing turned around and looked at Jiang Shangxin. He said, "Shangxin, the Jiang family owes you an official apology. In the past, I stood up and said this to you on behalf of the Jiang family. I am sorry. In the past, the Jiang family let you down. In the future, it will not happen again." Jiang Junling waved his hand and said, "You don't have to send me off. I know that you have been very busy recently." The elevator door closed. Jiang Shangxin was still standing at the entrance of the elevator in a daze. Could the Jiang family still be trusted now? Fang Haohan had been living a happy life, but Li Ye had been living a miserable life. Fang Haohan was happy because he could be by Li Ye's side all day, but Li Ye was unhappy because Fang Haohan had to be by her side all day. She had wanted to chase Fang Haohan back many times, but her godfather, Du Qing, did not agree to it. He said that Fang Haohan was an expert that he had specially hired to protect her. Looking at Fang Haohan's skinny body, he really did not look powerful. The typhoon season in Huaqing was coming. If there was a slightly stronger typhoon, Fang Haohan would probably be blown away, right? Li Ye started to look forward to the arrival of the typhoon season in Huaqing. Ever since the Qinghong internal conflict, Du Qing rarely took care of the Qingyun Corporation's matters. Some of the specific matters were handed over to Li Ye and her subordinates. She would only show her face when faced with major decisions. Therefore, Li Ye was very busy. She had just attended a banquet and was preparing to return to the company to handle some matters. She sat in the back seat of the Mercedes-Benz while Fang Haohan sat in the front passenger seat. "Xiaoya, if you are tired, close your eyes and have a good rest," Fang Haohan, who was sitting in the front row, said gently. "You have worked for 13 hours and 25 minutes straight today." Fang Haohan, "Xiaoya, feel free to speak your mind. Although I am your bodyguard, I am more willing to be your nanny. I want you to promise me something. Not to mention one, even 10,000 will do. Don't call me Xiaoya." Chapter 770. Why can't I call you Xiaoya? Fang Haohan's face was filled with confusion as he asked. "Because I don't like it," Li Ye said snappily. She was really going crazy. Just who was this man? "I already said that I don't like you, why do you always? Don't understand?" But, Fang Haohan's face was filled with grievance and said, "I can't just call you my wife, right? Isn't that not good?" Leah only felt a surge of hot blood rushing to her head. If she had a kitchen knife in her hand, she would definitely chop up Fong Hauhan, this idiotic and narcissistic ribs, and make soup. She would not drink that pot of soup, she would feed it to the dogs. Tell me, how could there be such a hateful man in this world? Wife? Are you kidding? Who would want to be your wife? Leah was tall and beautiful, and was at the best age for a woman. She was the goddaughter of Qing Hong and Du Qing, and was now in charge of all the affairs of the Azure Cloud Group. Whether it was the disciples of Elder Qing Hong or the rich young masters outside, they all admired and flattered her. There were many men by her side, and there were countless outstanding men. Although there were no other men who could move her heart, but it was impossible for her to marry a weirdo like Fong Hauhan, right? Leah tried her best to calm the anger in her heart, and looked at Fong Hauhan with a serious expression, and said, "Fong Hauhan, just call me a hero." Fong Hauhan grinned. "That's what my friends call me." The friends Fong Hauhan was referring to was Fong Yingying, because only Fong Yingying called him a hero, and he also called Fong Yingying a hero. Every time they called each other's names, there would be a wonderful feeling that there were only two heroes in the world. Fong Hauhan, of course, Leah would not call him a hero. In her heart, Fong Hauhan and a hero were not even close. In fact, they couldn't even be compared to the outstanding people in Green Red Army, who had dense tattoos all over their bodies, drank wine and ate meat, used gunny sacks to store money, and shot people with bullets. I know. You are Fong Yan's junior. He is my junior martial uncle. Fong Hauhan said proudly. Yes. I know, he is your junior martial uncle. I don't care what your relationship is. When Leah spoke, there was a sense of anger as she gritted her teeth and said, I know, my godfather values Fong Yan very much, and values the cooperation with him very much. So, when something happened to Qing Hong some time ago, he asked Fong Yan to help, and asked you to protect us. You were supposed to be by my godfather's side. But his health hasn't been good recently, so most of Qing Yan's affairs have been taken care of by me. Godfather was worried that I would go to the company alone, so he sent you to follow by my side. I am very willing to protect you. Fong Hauhan looked at Leah with a face full of love. This move was taught to him by Fong Yingying. Fong Yingying told him that a strong woman would become a clingy man, and when dealing with a woman, he had to be clingy. Of course, when doing this kind of thing, he had to be skillful. Words of love were like throwing them out without any cost. No matter what her reaction was, he had to act affectionate, as if he was thinking that way in his heart, and that he was a man who loved her deeply. Fong Hauhan felt that Fong Yingying's teachings were very correct, and he also felt that he had learned very well. Xiaoye, don't worry, as long as I'm here, I won't let anyone hurt you. If the enemy comes, I will definitely use my sturdy chest to block you behind me. Unless I die and they step over my dead body, even at that time my reluctant soul will still hug their legs tightly, so that they won't be able to hurt a single strand of your hair. As expected, Leah's expression changed. From white to red, from red to purple, and from purple to black. She's shy. Fong Hauhan thought happily. I've seen a movie called Ghost. It's about a dead lover who has always been by his wife's side. I'm willing to die for you, I'm willing to die for you. But you don't have to worry, even if I die, I will learn from the male lead in that movie. I will accompany you by your side and protect you. Fong Hauhan. The flesh on Leah's face twitched and her eyelids trembled nonstop. She felt that she was about to convulse, and she felt that she could no longer breathe. Xiaoye. Fong Hauhan knew that he was about to succeed. Because he saw that Leah's emotions were very agitated, even when she called his name, her voice was trembling. Oh, that trembling voice! Her trembling voice was so pleasant to hear. Fong Hauhan, tell me, what will make you willing to leave? Xiaoye, I will not leave you. State your conditions. Leah said. Money? Or women? I can help you arrange it. Xiaoye, do you still not understand my heart? My only hope is to accompany you by your side. I don't have any conditions, I don't want money, I don't want women. No, I want women, I only want you. If you are willing, state your conditions, how can I be with you forever? Xiaoya, don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Liya took a few deep breaths forcefully, aggrievedly, with tears in her eyes. She swallowed the crazy anger and the urge to kill, looked at Fong Haohan and said, I know I can't chase you away. I know my godfather doesn't want you to leave, but, I beg you, when you are by my side, don't speak, don't let me hear your voice. It's best if you don't even breathe. Don't appear in front of me, not even a shadow. Protect me in the dark, protect me in the other car. Am I begging you? Is that okay? That's not good, is it? Fong Haohan thought about it seriously and said, All right. As long as it's your request, I won't refuse. He shouted to the driver beside him, Stop the car. Stop the car. The car pulled over. Fong Haohan pushed the door open and was about to get out of the car, but he retracted his head, looked at Liya who was sitting in the back seat, and asked, Then what should I call you? Liya. Is that so? All right, Liya. Fong Haohan nodded, then grinned and said, I will watch you silently from the car behind. Drive. Liya gave the order with a cold expression. As the car left, Fong Haohan stood on the green belt by the side of the road and waved his hand. A black Volkswagen stopped beside him. There were originally 2 cars following Liya. One of them was her car, and Fong Haohan was supposed to be sitting in the front passenger seat. The other car was a secret guard. This car did not reveal anything, but followed behind Liya's car at a moderate distance. In the black Volkswagen, other than a driver, there were 2 bodyguards in black. These 2 people were both Qing Hong's experts, and also Du Qing's trusted aides. Because there was already someone sitting in the front passenger seat, Fong Haohan opened the back door and got in. Seeing that the 3 men in the car were all looking at him strangely, Fong Haohan waved his hand indifferently and said, You insisted on inviting me to a movie. In this kind of situation, can I go to a crowded place like a movie theater? This kind of Missy's temper needs to be taught a lesson. Of course, don't tell her this kind of thing anymore. After all, Xiao Ya's personality is not bad, and she has good intentions. Girls are thin-skinned, you guys understand. We understand. We understand. The younger man with a crew cut chuckled and agreed. The middle-aged man with an unshaven beard glanced at Fong Haohan and said, Miss is sitting alone in the car in front, will anything happen? She should be fine. Fong Haohan said with a smile. Aren't the few of us still following behind her? If there's an accident, we can rush over in a few seconds. The middle-aged man looked at Fong Haohan worriedly, but did not say anything. He did not know where Fong Haohan came from, but it was said that boss Du Qing invited him from the outside. An expert. Expert? Gu Hudu and his brothers had been secretly suspicious of Fong Haohan's identity. With his figure, he looked like he could be blown away by a gust of wind. How could he be considered an expert? Why did the experts these days have such serious water leakage? However, since it was boss Du Qing's arrangement, they could not say much. They had followed Du Qing to conquer the world, and after decades they had a kind of worship for Du Qing. Being able to survive in such a harsh environment, was there anything in this world that boss Du couldn't predict? The others did not speak, so Fong Haohan did not speak either. He lay on the chair, closed his eyes, and thought about his lyrical performance just now. There should be no problem with his words. He firmly followed Fong Yingying's style of being shameless. There should not be any flaws in his acting and expression. After all, he had been practicing in front of the mirror when he had nothing to do, and he really liked Liya, this little girl. He liked her when he saw her photo. He fell in love with her at first sight. After meeting her, he liked her even more because Liya was even more beautiful than in the photo. Moreover, he was three-dimensional and could be reached with his hand. Her skin was so white, her breasts were so perky, her smile was so beautiful, she knew how to make tea, she liked to read, and she could handle company matters. Fang Haohan thought, after being cheated by junior martial uncle Fang Yen for more than 10 years, God finally gave him a huge compensation. But, why does Xiao Ye look at me so strangely? Fang Haohan tried hard to think of the answer to this question. At this time, Li Yu's Mercedes-Benz turned around at the traffic light intersection. Just as the Volkswagen was about to follow, a white truck rushed over from the T-junction and crashed into the right side of their carriage. Rumble, a bolt of lightning cut through the sky. While no one was paying attention, the torrential rain poured down from the sky, smashing into the city. Chapter 771. After the explosion, Fang Yen stayed in the villa and didn't go out. His body was still weak, and he still couldn't figure out the state of his body. He couldn't feel any gas in his energy sea, but there were 2 Tai Chi fish, one black and one white, flying and breathing freely inside. It was as if they were living in a river. Lu Chaoga went to work every day, and when she came back, she would buy a lot of Fang Yan's favorite dishes, then put on an apron and cook personally. A woman who could go to the living room, cook in the kitchen, and sleep in the big bed. Who could imagine that the actual controller of Chaoyan technology, a beauty with a net worth of tens of billions, was willing to make soup for a man at home? Perhaps this was the charm of love. Ever since that honest talk, the two of them never mentioned anything about having a relationship. Of course, they didn't have a second relationship. Their way of getting along was still the same as usual. Lu Chaoga came back from work to cook, and Fang Yen was responsible for washing the dishes. Or when Lu Chaoga came back from work, Fang Yen had already prepared the meal, and then Lu Chaoga took the initiative to wash the dishes. It was quiet and warm, no different from other small couples' families. Tonight, Fang Yen was cooking, so Lu Chaoga wore an apron and washed the dishes in the kitchen. After Fang Yen made 2 cups of hot tea, he sat on the sofa in the living room and watched TV. The weather was sultry and dark clouds rolled. It looked like there was going to be another rainstorm today. It was no longer the rainy season in Huaqing, but there was still plenty of rain every day. One moment it was sunny, the next it was stormy, and when it was raining, the sun would shine. The people of Huaqing had been tortured by this unpredictable and unreasonable weather. Rumble, when the first bolt of lightning cut through the sky, Fang Yen turned and looked into the courtyard. The entire courtyard was illuminated by the lightning. The green lawn, the deep trees, and the dark iron pillars of the courtyard's gate were all clearly visible. Walala! The heavy rain poured down as if there was a god playing a prank above, pouring basin after basin of water down. What a heavy rain, Fang Yen said to Lu Chaoga, who was busy in the kitchen. Lu Chaoga took off the dishwashing gloves on his hands, untied the apron around his neck, and put it on the clothes hanger. He looked at the glass window that was being hit by the raindrops and said, "The weather forecast said it would rain today." After a pause, she said, "Do you want to call Grandpa? Doesn't his leg hurt when it rains?" Fang Yan's grandfather Fang Huwei had been paralyzed for many years, and because he didn't exercise for a long time, he suffered from rheumatism. He used to soak his feet with medicine, and his rheumatism was almost healed. In the past 6 months, Fang Huwei had been absent-minded. He was unwilling to soak his feet or let anyone massage him. The last 6 months, Fang Huwei was absent-minded. He didn't want to soak his feet, and he didn't want anyone to massage him. Fang Yen had a good talk with him, and asked him to soak his feet with the traditional Chinese medicine that he prescribed. He also asked his mother to supervise him every day. He did not know how his legs were doing now. Fang Yen had inadvertently mentioned this to Lu Chaoga. He didn't expect Lu Chaoga to keep this matter in mind. Fang Yen knew that Grandpa shouldn't be asleep at this time. He was sleeping less and less, and sometimes he couldn't sleep at night. It was said that when the elderly reached a certain age, they were very afraid of sleeping, worried that once they fell asleep, they would never get up again. It was said that when the elderly reached a certain age, they were very afraid of sleeping, worried that once they fell asleep, they would never get up again. Fang Yen didn't know if Grandpa had such worries, but he had been worried that something bad would happen. Birth, old age, illness, and death were human nature. However, at the moment when his father died tragically and the old drunkard went to the extremely cold land, Fang Yen really didn't want to bear the pain of losing his loved ones. Are you stupid? It might rain in Huaqing, but it might not rain in Yanjing, Fang Yen said with a smile. He grabbed his phone from the table, ready to call Grandpa and have a good chat with him. When the elderly couldn't sleep at night, it would be a pleasant surprise if they could receive a call from their children. Fang Yen dialed his grandpa's number. The phone was picked up immediately when Fang Yan's grandfather woke up. Fang Yen was very surprised and said, "Grandpa, why did you pick up so soon?" "Very soon?" Fang Hui's old voice came over, and he said with a smile, "I was about to charge my phone, but the phone rang. What's up?" "Nothing, I just wanted to talk to you," Fang Yen said with a smile. He knew that Grandpa didn't want to charge his phone. He didn't have the habit of using a phone before. Ever since Fang Yen bought him a phone for seniors and forced him to use it, he had been holding it in his hand all the time. The day he received the gift, he called his eldest daughter, his second daughter, and his youngest daughter who was far away in Mingzhu. He even called his old friend Lu Gong and talked for more than half an hour. He was always waiting for the phone to ring, because his family was on the other end of the line. That was what this old man, who had been a famous soldier all his life, looked forward to the most. "It's raining in Huaqing, and Chaoga knows that your legs aren't feeling well, so she asked me to call you to check on you." "Chaoga?" Fang Hui obviously knew about Lu Chaoga, and he asked in a low voice, "Are you with Chaoga?" "Yes," Fang Yen said frankly. He had nothing to hide from the old man on the other end of the line. There was nothing he could hide. "We're together." As expected, Fang Hui said after a moment of silence, "Fang Yen, you should know that I've always wanted you to be with that girl from the Yi family. It's been my wish for so many years." "Grandpa, I know." Fang Yen knew that his grandpa had guessed something. The old man's wisdom had always been beyond his imagination. "I'll take care of it." "You won't," said Fang Hui. "You've never had any relationship experience. You're like a newborn when it comes to this kind of thing. How are you going to deal with it? High IQ doesn't mean high EQ. Plus, you're neither. You can't betray Wenwan," Fang Hui said seriously. "Grandpa, I know," Fang Yen said without hesitation. However, his mind was a little uneasy, like the cold wind that was whistling past outside. How was he supposed to explain everything to Yinwan? "Wenwan, I'm in love with another woman. Wenwan, I'm in love with another woman. Wenwan, you..." Fang Yen felt that he was such a scumbag. Feeling terrible, Fang Yen glanced at Lu Chaoga and said, "Grandpa, I told Chaoga that she's my woman. I'll explain it to Wenwan as well. How about you scold me instead?" Lu Xiaoga didn't listen to the conversation between Fang Yen and her grandfather. Instead, she sat on the high chair in front of the floor-to-ceiling window with the tea that Fang Yen had brewed for her. She looked out at the distorted world that seemed to be crying and howling. Her waist was curvy and her hips were plump, and her posture was elegant and alluring. "You bastard," Fang Hui scolded him. "How could you do such a thing? Are you worthy of Wenwan? Are you worthy of the Yi family? Are you worthy of the ancestors of the Fang clan? How can you be so selfish? Where do you want me to put my old face?" Fang Hui had never scolded himself so harshly before, and Fang Yen felt very depressed. He did not utter a single word, silently enduring all of this. "Are you pregnant?" Soon, Fang Hui's voice was heard again. "If only I were. Our family is so lacking in popularity. Fang Yen, you have a great responsibility. Even if I have to sacrifice my dignity, you have to get a whole family out of this. How am I supposed to face my ancestors otherwise? Fang Yen, the Fang clan is in great danger now. If anything were to happen to you, our Fang clan would be cut off." Grandpa. All right, I'm sleepy and I'm going to bed. You young people should get some rest too, Feng Hui said impatiently. By the way, tell Wen Nuan everything. Don't hide a word from her. You think Wen Nuan. I'm not Wen Nuan. How would I know if she killed you or castrated you? Feng Hui said grumpily. I'm hanging up. Call your mother more often. D. The busy tone came from the other end of the line. Fang Yen put away the phone and was about to say something to Lu Chaoga when he saw Lu Chaoga place the teacup on the high table and stand up. Then, she opened the door and walked out. When she came back again, she brought back a woman who was drenched. Fang Yen looked at the woman clearly and said in surprise, Shangxin, why are you here at this time? It's raining so heavily. Jiang Shangxin took the towel from Lu Chaoga and wiped the rainwater off her face and head. She looked at Fang Yen, who was sitting on the sofa and drinking tea, and said, It wasn't raining when we set off, but it suddenly started raining when we reached the entrance of the neighborhood. It wasn't convenient for me to drive back then. I could only bite the bullet and rush in. However, I didn't get wet. I drove all the way to the entrance of the courtyard and only got a few drops of rain when I walked a few steps. Lu Zhaoga invited Shangxin to take a seat and personally brewed a cup of tea for her. Thank you. Jiang Shangxin took the tea and said gratefully. Lu Chaoga smiled and said, You guys continue chatting, I'm going upstairs to read a book. Chaoga. Fang Yen called out. Sit down and listen to it. Shangxin's visit this time should be related to the matter with the Jiang family, right? Jiang Shangxin didn't suspect that Fang Yen had planted an undercover agent around her. Even if he really did that, it would be natural. Even she couldn't find a reason why Fang Yen would trust her 100%. She was from the Jiang family and she was Jiang Zhuliu's wife. Lu Chaoga nodded and sat down beside Fang Yen again. The two of them looked at Jiang Shangxin and waited for her to explain the reason for her visit. Jiang Shangxin held the teacup and took a sip of hot tea. Then, she looked at Fang Yen and Lu Chaoga and said, General Jiang came to look for me. Yeah. Fang Yen nodded. He wants to buy my shares of Longtu Group. Yeah. Fang Yen nodded again. Jiang Shangxin looked at Fang Yen strangely and asked, You knew about it long ago? I guessed it long ago, Fang Yen said. He looked at the violent and rapid raindrops outside and sighed. Looking at the time, it's about time for the Jiang family to attack. Chapter 772. Caught off guard, the Volkswagen was hit by the van from the middle. The body of the car creaked, the front of the car shook violently, and then the whole car rolled in the middle of the road. Screech. The hard metal and the asphalt ground rubbed against each other, sparks appeared, but they were extinguished by the pouring rain. Splat, splat. The rain was heavy and heavy, as if it had a deep hatred for everything that grew on the earth. The van that rushed over did not turn around and leave after committing the crime. Instead, the front of the car was still pressed against the side wall of the Volkswagen, and the accelerator was increased, and increased. The van's engine roared, and the tailpipe emitted thick black smoke. They pushed the car's horsepower to the maximum. Everyone knew that this was not an ordinary collision, but a premeditated murder. That is, if the people in the car were still alive. Creak, creak. The body of the car was flipped over, and the van slid all the way and then slammed into the green belt in the middle of the road. A large hole was formed on the surface of the car, and the part that was sunk in became a huge iron blade, fiercely hitting or stabbing into the passengers closest to them. A large amount of blood flowed out from the gap of the car door, and just as it appeared red, it was instantly diluted by the rain on the road. More and more rainwater gathered, and the deep red turned into light red, and the light red turned into threads, and finally, the threads spun on the surface of the water, and then disappeared without a trace. However, the blood still flowed out endlessly. As a result, the ground continued to turn crimson until it was as if nothing had happened. At this time, The van that was on top of the Volkswagen began to move back. The driver was a one-eyed man, and his one eye exuded a cold and gloomy aura. Even though they had just done such a thing, it was not able to move him at all. Killing, this was their profession. They were born for this. Clang. The car window opened. A man in black with a hood sitting in the passenger seat took out a silver disc from his pocket and pressed his finger on the red button on the base of the disc. Beep, beep, beep. The silver disc began to flash with a green light, and the numbers on it rapidly rewound. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. The hooded man threw the silver disc at the Volkswagen. The silver disc seemed to have an inexplicable attractive power. With a snap, it stuck to the Volkswagen's metal body. Bang! The minivan's reverse speed increased, as if there was a monster in front that was about to crush them. DDD. The numbers on the silver dial went back faster, and the alarm grew louder and louder. 3, 2, 1, clang. The door that was attached to the silver disc suddenly detached itself from the carriage and flew towards the sky filled with the rain. Bang! The silver disc exploded, and a corrosive green substance scattered in all directions. When the door came into contact with the green substance, it began to emit thick smoke even though it was made of steel. It began to melt and shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally disappeared completely. Not only the car door, but the green liquid that enveloped the sky, the rainwater, and the air that came into contact with it all turned into white gas and disappeared. For a split second, a vacuum appeared in the air within the explosion radius of the silver disc. There was no oxygen, no rain, only the white smoke that came out from the burning. At the same time that he kicked the metal door into the air, Fong Hauhen's body was like an agile hunting dog as he pounced towards it. He did not run towards the minivan that caused the accident, but towards the left turn, towards the direction where Li Ye's Mercedes-Benz disappeared. It was obvious that their target was not him, nor the two thugs from the Green-Red gang that had their hearts and abdomens pierced by the metal shrapnel. Their target was Li Ye. And only Li Ye. Seeing Fong Hauhen jump out of the Volkswagen and disappear into the rain in the blink of an eye, the one-eyed man and the hooded man in the minivan were shocked. They had long discovered the existence of the minivan, and their existence was to get rid of the minivan that was protecting them in the dark, so that the mission ahead could proceed smoothly. Originally, they thought that they had succeeded. The Volkswagen was knocked to the ground by them, and they even used an extremely expensive genetic medicine. Just one drop was enough to turn a cow into a puddle of liquid. Based on the amount they used, it was enough to turn the Volkswagen and everyone in it into gas. No one in this world would be able to find any evidence of their existence. But why was that guy still alive? Why was he able to escape? "There's a survivor," the one-eyed man said viciously. As he spoke, he stepped on the accelerator, and the minivan no longer retreated, but instead charged towards the direction where Fong Hauhen disappeared into. "He's a good fighter." The hooded man's voice was emotionless. He was like a dead person, a zombie. "Kill him." "Looks like they were prepared." The one-eyed man's voice carried a hint of mockery. "That old dog Du Qing sure is considerate to his goddaughter. It won't change the overall situation." After the hooded man finished speaking, when the minivan was moving at high speed, he pushed open the door and jumped onto the roof. He stood on the roof and watched Fong Hauhen's running figure. Fong Hauhen's body was skinny, and his hands and legs were long. People often said that he looked like a human pole, or a scarecrow that was used to scare birds and beasts in the field. However, when he ran with all his might, his speed was shockingly fast. Fong Hauhen was very anxious. He was worried that something would happen to Li Ye. He was sent by Junior Marshal Uncle to protect Li Ye. He could not let Junior Marshal Uncle down. Most importantly, what he said to Li Ye was true. He said that he would protect Li Ye. He said that he would not let Li Ye come to any harm. He also said that even if he died, if those bad people stepped over his body, his unwilling soul would hug their legs. Of course, if they did not step over his body, then there was nothing he could do. Fong Haohan did not know how to like, how to love. In his life, there had never been such a word. If someone asked him, "Do you like or love Leah?" he would definitely be confused, not knowing what you were talking about. What was the difference between the two? Didn't they all want to be with her? Fong Haohan knew that he was not a hero, but when his woman was in danger, he had to stand up and save her. He didn't think about anything, and he didn't have time to think about anything. At this moment there was only one belief in his heart: no matter what, Leah must be safe. He faced the strong wind and the torrential rain, rushing towards where his hope lay. He saw the Mercedes-Benz, which was parked by the side of the road. It seemed that it had also encountered danger. Thinking of this possibility, Fong Haohan became even more anxious. Bang! His body suddenly left the ground, his body leaped into the air, and then fell towards the wetland in front of him. He was attacked from behind, and someone kicked him in the back. His whole body was burning in pain, and his bones felt like they were about to fall apart. Fong Haohan's body slid on the ground, then he jumped up and ran towards the Mercedes-Benz again. He didn't even look back to see who was sneaking up on him. He knew what the goal of those bad people was. They wanted to stop him from saving Leah. But, no matter what, he had to save Leah. This was the most important thing in the world. Fong Haohan jumped over the green belt, ran a few steps, and suddenly turned to the left. Whoosh! A big foot appeared in the dark night sky, passing through the place where he was just standing. Clang! The leather boots fell to the ground, and the hooded man stood in front of Fong Haohan. He looked at Fong Haohan, who wanted to go around him again, and said, "I know you don't have much time, but you'd better get past me first." Fong Haohan tilted his head in thought, then clenched his fist and ran towards the hooded man. As he ran, the bones in his body creaked loudly. But what was even more surprising was that his body was shrinking. With every step he took, his body would become shorter and smaller. By the time he reached the hooded man, Fong Haohan, who was originally much taller than the hooded man, looked like a child who could only reach the hooded man's shoulder. Bone shrinking art. Everyone in Swallow Dock knew that Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan were the two disciples that Mo Qingdi took in during his travels to challenge the world's strongest fighters. But what they didn't know was, when Mo Qingdi met Fong Haohan was performing the bone shrinking skill. Fong Yingying was rolling iron rings, while Fong Haohan was able to pass through a very small iron ring. Not knowing what Mo Qingdi was thinking, he brought them back to Swallow Dock. While teaching them Fong Tai Chi, it was more important to let them display their own strength. As a result, they became as shameless as Fong Yen. Fong Haohan's fist was also shrinking. Finally, it turned into a child's fist. But the fist was white. The night was dark and the rain was thick. But you could still clearly see the whiteness of the fist, as if he was holding a luminous pearl in his hand. The light of the luminous pearl shone through the gap between his fingers. "Leah!" He shouted Leah's name, then punched the hooded man's chest. Chapter 773. The person who understood you the most would always be your opponent. This sentence would never get old no matter what era it was. Fong Yen understood the Jiang family and knew that the Jiang family would definitely take revenge on him. He even knew that the Jiang family would definitely think of ways to instigate him. Of course, General Xing definitely understood Fong Yen and could guess all of this. Therefore, he met him openly and had no intention of hiding anything. Thinking of this, Jiang Shangxin was looking forward to the battle between these two men. The previous battle between Jiang Junling and Fong Yen ended with Jiang Junling's defeat. What about this time? They were both outstanding men from the Jiang family. Would General Xing be able to take revenge for his brother and defeat Fong Yen? So you already know about all these and have made sufficient preparations. Jiang Shangxin sighed and said. Jiang Shangxin knew that Fong Yen was a smart person. She knew that even if she didn't come, Fang Yen would definitely know that General Xing had gone to see her. Of course, she didn't have the intention to hide it from Fang Yen when she specially chose the Longtu building as the meeting place. Jiang Shangxi knew that although she was in control of the Longtu group now, however, Fang Yen, Lu Chaoge, and Lan Shanggu had a greater share of the Longtu group. As long as they wanted to, they could kick her out at any time. If she hadn't been harmed so badly by Jiang Junling, if Jiang Zhulu hadn't wanted to kill her, if Fang Yen hadn't saved her life, she probably wouldn't have had the chance to take over the Longtu group, right? What kind of relationship did she have with Fang Yen? Collaborator? Friend? Or was it his woman or a dog? Jiang Shangxin couldn't find the exact answer for a while. However, she could tell from the small movements between Lu Chaoge and Fang Yen that Lu Chaoge had already become Fang Yan's woman. Thinking of this possibility, Jiang Shangxin couldn't help but feel her heart warm up. Will I have such a day myself? Jiang Shangxin thought to herself, if he says that he likes me, if he wants to, should I submit to him? Or push him away? It's one thing to know, but it's another to be fully prepared. Fang Yen held the teacup and looked at the rain outside the window thoughtfully. No matter who it is, they won't be able to relax when facing a giant like the Jiang family, let alone say that they're fully prepared. It was just that he didn't know how much strength the generals would use in their attacks. Fight to the death? Jiang Shangxin frowned slightly and said, General Xing looks like he's determined to win. I'm sure they've already found a breakthrough point. Is there any problem on your side? I'd rather sacrifice all of Chaoyan technology in order to tear off a piece of the Jiang family's big tiger's flesh. As long as there's blood, the other families will swarm in. At that time, even if the Jiang family wants to stop it, they won't have the chance, Lu Chaoge said calmly as if she was talking about something insignificant. One had to know that Chaoyan Technology was also a giant company, and its development prospects were limitless. He was the child that Lu Chaoge had raised single-handedly, and he was her everything. She was the biggest shareholder of Chaoyan Technology. Based on the current valuation of Chaoyan Technology, Lu Chaoge's net worth was tens of billions of Huaxia dollars. With the development of Chaoyan Technology or the rise of the energy industry, what figure could her net worth reach? For Fang Yen, she was willing to give up everything. Even if she had to sacrifice her last soldier and shed her last drop of blood, she wanted to seriously injure the Jiang family. Jiang Shangxin couldn't help but be moved. She shifted her gaze to Lu Chaoge and said, Even if the Jiang family makes a move, I'm afraid they won't dare to do anything to Chaoyan, at least not openly. After all, Chaoyan Technology doesn't just belong to you and Fang Yen, the Qin family also owns a large proportion of the shares. If they want to deal with you, the first thing they'll do is to reach a settlement with the Qin family. To reach a settlement with the Qin family. This sentence made Fang Yen and Lu Chaoge look a little embarrassed. Yes, if the Jiang family were to make a move on Fang Yen and Lu Chaoge, the first thing they had to be cautious about was the Qin family's attitude towards this matter. The Qin family was the biggest shareholder of Chaoyan Technology, and also the big backer behind Fang Yen and Lu Chaoge. Chaoyan Technology was able to take root and grow rapidly under the covetous eyes of a pack of wolves. On one hand, it was because of Lu Chaoge's ability and persistence, and on the other hand, it was because of the Qin family supporting them from behind. Be it the technical personnel or the security forces, most of them were sent by the Qin family. Whether it was the former head of Lu Chaoge's guards, Scholar, or the current head of the guards, Qin Ning, they were all experts sent by the Qin family. In Chaoyan Technology, Lu Chaoge was the largest shareholder, the Qin family was the second largest shareholder, and Fang Yen was the third largest shareholder. According to the proportion of shares, it was natural that Fang Yen and Lu Chaoge had the advantage. For so many years, under the strong support and promotion of Qin Etienne, the Qin family's support and help to Chaoyan Technology was meticulous. The relationship between the two sides had always been very harmonious, and it could be said that they had spent a long period of honeymoon. However, where there were interests there would be fights. The founding party led by Lu Chaoga and the parachute party backed by the Qin family had always been in a state of open and secret struggle. Lu Chaoga wanted to maintain her leadership position, but the Qin family also wanted to seek a greater voice in Chaoyan technology. The more rapid the development of Chaoyan technology, the brighter the future prospects, and the stronger the Qin family's ambition. If someone made a move on Fang Yan or Lu Chaoga, the Qin family would naturally be furious and fight back. However, the Qin family and the Jiang family were giant families with equal power. There were even rumors that the Qin family and the Jiang family wanted to unite by marriage between Qin Etian and Jiang Junling. Although the two families had never admitted it directly, it was a fact that Jiang Junling and Qin Etian had been very close for a period of time. If, just to say that there was such a possibility, if the Jiang family had greater benefits, for example, after they destroyed Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga, let the Qin family occupy the dominant position of Chaoyan technology, or directly give the entire Chaoyan technology to the Qin family, perhaps it was an equally irresistible benefit. How could the Qin family not be tempted? With the disappearance of Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga, who would be the biggest winner? Would it be the Jiang family? The Jiang family was just taking revenge. The Qin family was the biggest winner. They would own the entire Chaoyan technology. Sometimes, the real enemy was not the opponent who fought with you fiercely with swords and spears, but the comrade who suddenly stabbed you while you were fighting shoulder to shoulder. Because of Qin Etian and the mistress rumors, the Qin family's attitude toward Fang Yan was extremely bad. Although Qin Etian had never said anything, Fang Yan was not an idiot. Could he not imagine the direction in which things would develop? Wasn't the Qin family's attitude toward him obvious at a glance at the Junling clubhouse? Fang Yan looked at Jiang Shangxin and did not know if she said this unintentionally or to remind him. Could it be that General Xing had revealed something in front of her? Jiang Shangxin was also an extremely intelligent person. When she saw Fang Yan and Lu Zhaoga staring at her intently and pondering, Jiang Shangxin immediately understood what they were thinking. She hurriedly explained, "I just said it casually, and I didn't get any information. However, based on my guess, is there really such a possibility?" Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yan. She knew that Fang Yan and Qin Etian were on good terms and understood the girl's deep love for Fang Yan. Although Qin Etian was young, he was outstanding and had helped his mother manage the Qin family's business for the past few years. His schemes and victories were dazzling and amazing. Many people said that the Qin family had another spirit fox. Some even said that the essence of the Qin family's thousands of years of spiritual energy had been gathered on this girl. If Fang Yan gave Qin Etian a call, wouldn't he know a lot of things? Fang Yan shook his head and said, "I will keep this matter in mind." Jiang Shangxin originally wanted to stay for a while before leaving, but the rain was getting heavier and it seemed like it would not stop anytime soon. That little princess of the Qin family, she probably knows something? Jiang Shangxin looked at Fang Yan and asked. "I will personally make a trip to the Yan capital," Fang Yan said. Jiang Shangxin took a glance at Lu Zhaoga and giggled. It's not easy to enter the Qin family. Outsiders say that the Jiang family is the most arrogant and the Qin family is the most arrogant. The Qin family's arrogance comes from their bones. They seem to treat everyone very well, but they rarely put anyone in their eyes. "Thank you for your reminder." Fang Yan smiled and said. Rumble, another bolt of lightning exploded in the sky, as if it was going to tear apart the endless darkness. Heavy rain. Splash. Fang Haohen's feet stepped into the puddles on the ground. Because of the rapid accumulation of water on the road, it looked like he was running in a river. Fang Haohen's body jumped up high and he threw a punch. That fist was glowing brightly, as if it had suddenly pulled open the case that was covering the luminous pearl, allowing it to release its own brilliance without restraint. When Fong Hauhen's body shrunk bit by bit as he ran, the man in the headgear squinted his eyes and revealed a murderous look. When he saw Fong Hauhen's white fist flying over, he already knew that this weird-looking guy's skills had reached the peak and he had reached the realm of introverted divine brilliance. What a surprise! The man in the headgear thought to himself. He did not expect to meet such an expert. When he knew that he would not be able to meet Fong Yen, he felt a little regretful. He did not retreat. This was the excitement that he had been looking forward to for a long time. How could he retreat? The man in the headgear also threw a punch. Sizzle, the sound of the rainwater evaporating was heard. His fist and Fong Hauhen's were in two opposite states. Fong Hauhen's fist was getting smaller and smaller, but the man in the headgear's fist was getting bigger and bigger. Fong Hauhen's fist was filled with white light, but the man's fist was pitch black. It looked like an ordinary punch. Boom! Their fists collided fiercely. Chapter 774. The light in Fong Hauhen's palm exploded, as if a white sun had suddenly risen in the sky. The blazing white light enveloped Fong Hauhen's body, as well as the hooded man's pitch-black fist. However, it couldn't hide the color of the hooded man's fist. It was like a black spot on the sun, like a flaw on a bead. The black fist was wrapped in energy, and carried an evil aura that could devour everything, as it fiercely bombarded Fong Hauhen's body. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the wind howled and the energy surged. Between the two of them, a white energy shield formed by strength chi was formed. Inside the transparent energy barrier, there was no wind, no rainstorm, no airflow. They were in a state of complete vacuum. The energy barrier appeared and disappeared in an instant. The surrounding raindrops were bounced off, turning into countless powerful bullets. Crack! The sound of bones breaking could be heard. This was the first round of the battle, a collision of flesh against flesh, a battle of bones against bones. It was unclear whether Fong Hauhen's bones broke, or the hooded man's. Kai Clan's wildfire fist, Fong Hauhen thought. Huaxia Kung Fu had the saying of Southern Fist and Northern Kick. Southern Fist didn't refer to a single fist style, but to the entire Huaxia Kung Fu that was superior to the Northern Kung Fu. Fast, accurate, ruthless, and always able to come up with something new. In the north, the Bailey clan's Bailey Godly Fist was the best, but in the south, there was the Kai clan, Li clan, and Hua clan. The Kai clan's Wildfire Fist, the Li clan's Five Grappling Fist, and the Hua clan's Mystic Fist were all the best. They were also the backbone of the saying of Southern Fist and Northern Kick for hundreds of years. Fong Hauhen was Mo Qingdi's disciple, although his drunkard master wasn't very qualified, and he often slacked off. But Ng Qingdi liked to explain the various characteristics and uses of the world's kung fu to Fong Yen and his two disciples. The Kai family's Wildfire Fist was naturally in his explanation, so Fong Hauhen recognized the origin of this fist technique the moment he came into contact with it. Deal with change with constancy, deal with constancy with change. The only thing that didn't change was the way he used his strength. It was fierce, ferocious, firm, and unbelievably fierce. Moreover, once the battle began, it would be like a wildfire that would never stop. It looked like it was going to burn everything, including the grasslands, the mountains, and even the black soil on the ground. What was ever-changing was their fist path. Their fist path had 127 variations, and this was the official number from a few years ago. Perhaps even the old drunkard didn't know how many changes there were now. Wildfire burns the city. The hooded man was indeed a member of the Kai family, and he was a very important person. It was also because of his extraordinary identity that he was wearing black clothes and a black hood that covered his head completely. He used 90% of his strength in this strike. He wanted to smash Hero Fong into a pile of bones with a single punch, even though he looked like a silly-looking big guy. Die, the masked man shouted in a muffled voice. Boom! The light in Fong Hauhen's palm flashed again, like the last radiance of the setting sun, or the rebound before death, and then disappeared. Hiss! Fong Hauhen and the hooded man's bodies were motionless at first, but then, as if they had been electrocuted, they bounced back in the opposite direction at the same time. Whoosh! Fong Hauhen's feet slid quickly on the ground, creating wave after wave of water. A majestic force pushed his body backward. In the process of retreating, his shrunken body began to swell and grow larger. Crack, crack, crack. The bones in Mr. Fong's body kept creaking. When he struggled to stand in the rain, his body had returned to its previous dry and skinny body of a utility pole. The hooded man's body flew into the air and smashed into the distance. His body passed through the rain and the green belt by the side before falling to the ground with a thud. As the ground was too slippery, his body slid all the way until he hit a billboard by the side of the road. Pwah! The hooded man's chest was agitated, and then he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was injured in that attack just now. He was actually injured. The wildfire fist was known for its strength, and the way it was used was very unique. Usually, a single strike would cause even top experts to feel agitated, unable to calm down for a long time. But what was up with this skeleton monster today? He still couldn't understand the meaning of the two flashes of light. According to his realm of converged divine essence, he could only complete an attack of that level with all his strength. He retracted his power and blasted it one more time. That's impossible. The hooded man shook his head in denial. How old was this monster? How could he have reached the legendary heavenly Tao realm of inner strength circulation? Or could it be that this was a method of exerting strength that he didn't know of? The hooded man had blocked Fong Hauhen's first flash of light, but his body was injured by the second flash of light. Although the second flash of light wasn't as bright as the first, and the strength wasn't as great as the first, it was enough to seriously injure the hooded man who was temporarily in a blank state. He felt like his organs had shifted, and what was even more unbearable was that his right arm was in excruciating pain. During the battle, he heard the crisp sound of bones breaking. It wasn't hard to imagine that it was the sound produced when one's bones couldn't withstand the heavy blows. The torrential rain poured down on his face and body. Most of his body was soaked in the rain, and he looked indescribably wretched. The hooded man suddenly felt a little regretful. Why did he have to make this journey? When he heard that his opponent was the rare genius of the Taiji lineage, Fong Yen, he felt an upsurge of emotions, but he also felt disdain. Hype, it was all hype. In today's society, people's hearts were getting worse. Even some of the people in the inner world were infected with the bad habits of the outside world. Kung Fu was trained day and night with punches and kick. How could it be packaged and hyped up? He came out this time to have a good battle with Fong Yen, to expose the false face of the revival of Taoism. When he came out to carry out the mission today, he felt a little unhappy when he heard that he might not be able to meet Fong Yen. He came for Fong Yen, but if he couldn't even meet Fong Yen, what was the point of coming out? What? My opponent is a martial nephew of Fong Yen? When he heard the news, he nearly smashed the table he was eating at. He shouted at those people, "Isn't this insulting?" Only now did he know that others weren't insulting him, but he was the one who insulted him the most. Isn't this insulting? When the hooded man thought of this sentence, he wanted to bury his head in the rain and never lift it again. Fong Hauhen didn't care what the hooded man was thinking. Anyway, he wasn't the woman he liked and they weren't friends. After Fong Hauhen's figure stood still, he glanced at the hooded man's position and quickly ran in his direction. Let's get rid of him first, Fong Hauhen thought in his heart. Anyway, it's just something along the way. He had to admit that after being with Fong Yen for a long time, He would more or less be infected with Fong Yan's temperament of not wanting to be at a disadvantage and desperately trying to take advantage of others. For example, he had already defeated his opponent. If he killed him along the way, then even if he suffered some losses, it wouldn't seem that big, right? Of course, 100 hooded men couldn't be compared to his Xiaoyan. Not even 1,000,000. Kacha. Fong Haohen's body bent slightly, and he dived toward the hooded man's position. His body spun rapidly. As he spun, a bullet passed by the side of his body. One Eye drove toward the hooded man with one hand, and with the other hand, he raised a silver pistol and pulled the trigger at Fong Haohen. Fong Haohen dodged to the side of the car. Just as the van was about to pass him, he suddenly jumped into the van through the open window. One Eye was shocked. He had just seen Fong Haohen's bone-shrinking ability. But wasn't this kid's tunneling ability too amazing? If he knew Fong Haohen's profession before he met Emo Qingdi, he probably wouldn't have let out such a sigh. Fong Haohen's tunneling speed was fast, but One Eye's reaction speed was even faster. When he saw Fong Haohen appear next to him, he immediately raised his gun and pulled the trigger at Fong Haohen, who was in the passenger seat. There was no pause in the process. Not even a second. Kacha, he pulled the trigger, but no bullet was fired. Where's the bullet? Where's the bullet? Where's the bullet? Crack, crack, crack. Fong Haohen threw the unloaded bullet on the ground, then snatched the pistol from One Eye's hand and smashed it heavily into One Eye's head. Kacha, kacha, kacha. After 2 or 3 hits, One Eye's head was a bloody mess. His forehead was covered in blood, and his only eye had become blurry due to the blood that had seeped into it. Heaven has a path, but you don't want to take it, and hell has no doors, but you want to barge in. You want to die, I'll send you to die. One Eye's face was ferocious, and he laughed maniacally. He slammed his palm on a red button on the steering wheel, and then the van he was in exploded into pieces with a loud bang. Green liquid splashed everywhere, and the body of the van was quickly corroded into thick smoke. Chapter 775. We've seen countless movies and TV stories that tell us that people who want to die together with others will end up killing themselves in the end. The speed at which Hero Fong entered the hole was fast, and the speed at which he escaped was even faster. When Fong Haohen saw the one-eyed man laughing hysterically, he knew that he would do something shameless. When Fong Haohen heard the one-eyed man shouting lines like, "There's a way to heaven, but you don't take it, but you rush into hell," he knew that he would do something shameless. If you were a movie lover, you would know that any character who shouted this line was either going to kill someone or be killed very soon. There were no exceptions. The one-eyed man had just raised his hand, and before he could hit the car's steering wheel, Fong Haohen's head shrank and he rolled out. Now was not the time to be a hero. Besides, even if Fong Yingying was here, he would probably run away faster. This was not the first time Fong Haohen came into contact with this kind of genetic weapon. Before he encountered these killers today, Fong Yen had already told him about the horror of this weapon. Fong Haohen would never forget the serious expression on Fong Yan's face when he mentioned this weapon. He said, "Run as far as you can and don't look back." Later, Fong Yingying asked, "What if I can't run away?" Fong Yen looked at Fong Yingying and said, "If I can't run away, then try to turn around and kill them." Fong Haohen knew that people with physical disabilities could also be mentally disabled. People with this kind of mental disability could do anything that ordinary people could not understand, such as suicide. Therefore, Fong Haohen ran away shamelessly. Even if the one-eyed man was faking it, if he didn't slap him, he would accept it. The one-eyed man finally slapped him. The van they were driving was a genetic explosive warehouse. The control button was on the steering wheel controlled by the one-eyed man. When he detonated the bomb, the van exploded with a bang. The green light flickered, and even the heavy rain could not dilute its density. Not only did it not extinguish them, but the dense raindrops that fell on them immediately evaporated into gas. The green genetic agent was extremely corrosive. Rainwater, grass, soil, and even the metal body of the car, the one-eyed man's body was annihilated in the flames and then burned into ashes or gas. Clang, half of the car bounced in the air before landing heavily on the ground. When it hits the ground, it's hard to tell what it really is. Moreover, it was shrinking and disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Quang quang quang. Fong Hauhan walked up to the hooded man. Fong Hauhan looked at the man soaked in the rain and said, "Why bother? Does the Kai family need to be someone else's dog?" "It's not easy for anyone to live," the hooded man said sorrowfully. "Just like you now, it's not easy for you to kill someone, but for someone else to kill you. Yeah, it's not easy for anyone to live." Fong Hauhan nodded and said, "You guys kidnapped Leah? Taken away." The hooded man nodded and said, "We are only in charge of intercepting them. The people who are really in charge of snatching them are very strong, not any weaker than you or I. If Leah doesn't have a stronger expert protecting her, they should have succeeded. Now that I think about it, I thought the mission on the other side would be a bit more dangerous, but I didn't think we would run into a tough one. This is fate. Then I'll have to trouble you." Fong Hauhan wiped the rainwater off his face and spoke with a very serious tone. "Tell me where they went, I'll go and get her back. I don't blame you for wanting to kill me, and then you don't have to die. You're very good at negotiating, and the conditions you offer are also very tempting." The hooded man laughed loudly. "But I can't promise you that. Is there something you're more afraid of than death?" "There is. What is it?" "My entire family is dead." Fong Hauhan went silent for a bit, then said, "I can understand your situation. To be honest, I really want to let you go. That's making things too difficult for you." The hooded man smiled and said, "If I leave, I'll still have to listen to someone else's orders, become their dog and kill people, kill you, and kill your family. That's right. That's why I can't let you go." Fong Hauhan was a bit annoyed as he scratched his head a few times and said, "What do you think I should do?" "I'll listen to you. You're really making things difficult." The hooded man smiled bitterly. "What kind of advice can I give you for something like this?" Fong Hauhan looked straight into the hooded man's eyes and asked, "Can you take off the hooded man's head? Why bother?" The hooded man smiled and said, "I'm already going to die, why humiliate me again?" "That's true." Fong Hauhan nodded and said, "If you don't want me to see, then I won't." The hooded man propped himself up with one hand and climbed up from the rain. Because the rain had soaked his clothes, the black night clothes and the hooded man's head were tightly stuck to his body, as if they were one with him. The hooded man bowed deeply to Fong Hauhan and said, "Although the winner takes all, but I can't tell you where that woman was taken. I still feel very sorry. Even if you don't tell me, I'll still find her," Fong Hauhan said with a resolute expression. "If I can't find her today, I'll find her tomorrow. If I can't find her, my junior martial uncle will definitely find her." Fong Yen, how unfortunate that we won't have the chance to meet again," the hooded man said. He raised his uninjured left hand. The left hand clenched into a fist, then began to expand in the air. It carried a cold, dark glint, like the hand of the Grim Reaper. Boom! The hooded man's fist struck his own head. His head exploded like a watermelon. His head, as well as the hooded man's head, turned into scattered pieces of flesh and cloth, flying in all directions. He didn't want anyone to see his face. And no one would be able to see his face again. In order to not bring shame to his family, in order to not bring danger to his family. Fong Hauhan blankly stared at the headless corpse that once again fell to the ground, then said to him with a serious expression, "Don't worry, your hatred is also my hatred. I'll carry it for you." The rain was getting heavier, washing away the sins of this world. Fong Hauhan's tall body was running in the wind and rain, like a savage from ancient times. Rumble! The sound of a car engine could be heard from the door again. Fong Yen and Lu Chaoga were standing in front of the French window in the living room, watching as the door of the dark Mercedes-Benz opened and a man came out from the passenger seat with an umbrella. Before the umbrella covered his head, Du Qing, in a black trench coat, had already opened the door and got out of the car. Du Qing looked up at the French window in the living room. His and Fang Yan's eyes collided in midair through the whistling wind and the dense rain. Fang Yan nodded at him, and then Du Qing strode towards the front door of the villa. Du Qing stood at the door of the living room. He took off his black trench coat, and the bodyguard in black behind him immediately reached out to take it. The bodyguard next to him squatted down to help him take off his shoes, but was pulled up by him and shouted, "When did I, Du Qing, ask my brother to take off my shoes? Get out of the way." Du Qing bent down to take off his shoes, and slowly and calmly untied the shoelaces of his leather shoes. He untied one shoe, then the other shoe. He took off both shoes and put them on slippers, then picked up his leather shoes and put them in the shoe cabinet. Du Qing took the towel that Lu Chaoga handed over, bowed slightly to Lu Chaoga, and said with a smile, "Thank you, Miss Lu." Lu Chaoga nodded and turned to help the guests make tea. Du Qing took the towel and wiped the rain off his face, then walked to Fang Yan's side and stood still. Looking at Fang Yan, who was anxious and impatient as if the rain would never stop, he said, "This rain is very heavy. This rain is very heavy." Fang Yan nodded and said, "Don't blame a hero, he is a good boy. I like him very much." Du Qing said aloud, "I don't blame him." Fang Yan nodded and said, "But he is blaming himself." He came back to say something and then went out again. When he went out, Fang Yingying also went out. "My two nephews are usually joking and not decent, but they are a bit stubborn. They will definitely stick to something they are determined to do. They can't be blamed. The main thing is that their improper master didn't teach them well. People were lost, and they were lost in the hands of a hero. So, they will definitely find a way to find them. If they can't find them in 1 day, then they will look for them for 2 days. If they can't find them in 2 days, then they will look for them for a year, for the rest of their lives." Such a heavy rain, it must have been hard on these two children. Du Qing sighed. "It's not easy for anyone to live." Fang Yan said. "That's what the Kai family said." The hero said that the Kai family also made a move. He recognized the Kai family's wildfire fist. "This isn't over yet." Du Qing grinned. It was a soundless laugh, but it made people's hearts palpitate. "I don't care if it's the inner Jianghu or the outer Jianghu, I have people, I have guns. I want to destroy the Kai family, I don't want any of them to live." Fang Yan looked at Du Qing with a bit of guilt and said, "The hero wants me to ask you a favor. Please say it." "Let the Kai family go," Fang Yan said. Fang Haohan made a deal with the Kai family. As long as he told them Li Yu's location, they would let him go. But that person didn't agree. He said that the thing he feared more than death was the death of his entire family. Then he bowed and apologized to Fang Haohan, then used the Kai family's wildfire fist to smash his own head. It's not easy for anyone to live. He just wanted to save his own life. Some people want to save their own life, some people want to save their family. Du Qing nodded and said, "He's a hero. If the Kai family doesn't mind, I'll go and become sworn brothers with them." Chapter 776. Du Qing started from the underworld. He was ruthless, hard-working, and loyal. In the end, he rose rapidly and became the leader of Qing Hong. Later, he followed the trend of the times and wanted to whitewash Qing Hong. Thus, he founded the Green Cloud Group that was famous throughout Huaqing and was very influential in the business world of Huaxia. Many people felt that the reason why a gangster like Du Qing could become rich was because he was ruthless, hard-working, and loyal. In reality, in that kind of era, in that kind of circle, how many people wouldn't be ruthless, hard-working, and loyal? But why was it Du Qing who fought his way out? Why was it Du Qing who stepped on their heads? Because Du Qing was smart. In this world, smart people were the scariest. They knew what could be said and what couldn't be said. They also knew what could be done and what couldn't be done. Du Qing coming to see Fang Yen at this time was naturally because of the matter of Li Ye being kidnapped. When he heard Fang Yen mention the Kai family's involvement, he immediately said that he didn't care if it was the Jianghu or the Jianghu. He had people and guns, and wanted to destroy the entire Kai family. People with status like him usually kept their words. When he heard Fang Yen say that the Kai family member would rather use the family's wildfire fist to smash his head to pieces than to trade, he immediately changed his view of the Kai family. He praised them as a good man, and said that if the Kai family didn't abandon him, he was willing to become sworn brothers with them. With a flip of his hand, he could create clouds. With a flip of his hand, he could create rain. With a gun in his left hand and a rose in his right. Only by doing something and not doing something could one become a Confucian hero. In Fang Yan's long contact with Du Qing, he felt that Du Qing was indeed worthy of the title Confucian hero. Good at calligraphy, good at drinking tea, admires culture, socializes with celebrities, has a calm temperament and talks elegantly. Most importantly, the brothers around him respected and loved him from the bottom of their hearts. This was also the main reason why Fang Yen was willing to associate with him. The secondary reason was because he had people and guns, and was the king of Huaqing's underworld. He would rather smash his head to pieces than let others recognize him. This means that the Kai family is not willing to admit this matter. We just need to remember this in our hearts. The Kai family's people had character when dealing with this matter, but they still made a mistake first. We don't owe them anything. Young master is right. Du Qing nodded and said, I'm used to fighting and killing. When I hear of such a man, I can't help but admire him. It's easy to turn a good thing into a bad thing. These are all trivial matters. Fang Yen shook his head and said, Is there any news? Everyone has been sent out. I received a few calls on the way. They said that they found a suspicious target, but when they went over, they found out that it was the wrong target. Du Qing said in a deep voice. These people are all experts, and they know how to hide themselves. They came prepared. It won't be an easy task to find them in such a huge flower city. Fang Yen comforted Du Qing and said, Don't worry, their target is not Li Ye. I know. Their goal is not for Li Ye, but to force me to submit. Du Qing said with a smile. Little Ye is taking the blame for me. Fang Yen looked at the deep outline of Du Qing's profile and asked, Have you decided? I've decided. Du Qing smiled bitterly. In their hands, little Ye doesn't have a better choice. Don't you want to give yourself more time? Or, will there be news of Li Ye on your side or my side? You know what kind of people they are, and I also know what kind of people they are. When dealing with people like this, it's best to follow their heart. They can be willful, but I can't. Du Qing had a helpless expression and said, You should know about Li Ye. Although she is the daughter of my brother, he entrusted her to me after he left. All these years, I, Du Qing, have never lacked women, but I have never thought of letting those women give me a son or a daughter. Why? I'm afraid. A person like me can be hacked to death on the streets or assassinated in my own room at any time. If I die, how can my enemies who are hiding in the dark, those who have a life and death feud with me, let my family go? If I want to give birth to them, then I need to have the ability to protect them. If I can't protect them, then it's best not to give birth to them. Although I don't have children, I want to have a child. So, Li Ye is my only child. She is my daughter. Among all the fathers in the world, how many of them are willing to risk their own daughter's life? I understand. Fang Yen said. Although I've already made my decision, I still feel that I should come and say hello to you. Du Qing looked at Fang Yen apologetically and said, If that's the case, I can't help you anymore. Especially at this time. It's okay. Fang Yen looked at Du Qing, looked at this man who knew how to judge the situation, and said, You have already helped me too much, this time I owe you. Du Qing laughed and waved his hand. You understand me, and I also understand you. Let's not talk about things like you owe me and I owe you anymore. When this is over, let's have a good drink again. Be good brothers again. Fang Yan said seriously. You're taking advantage of me, Du Qing said with some complaint. Then, his big hand tightly grasped Fang Yan's hand and said, As long as we're alive, we'll be good brothers again. Lu Chaoga came over with tea. Du Qing took the teacup and took a sip, then put the teacup on the tea table. Du Qing looked at Lu Chaoga with a smile and said, Miss Lu's tea is something I will never get tired of. It's much better than the tea brewed by that last Li Ye. That last simply threw the tea leaves into the boiling water. Miss Lu, although I really want to finish this cup of tea, time is of the essence and I still have some personal matters to deal with. So, I'll leave this half a cup of tea for now. I'll enjoy it when I come back. Lu Chaoga nodded, looked at Du Qing with admiration and said, Whenever Co. Du comes, there will be good tea for you. Du Qing smiled, waved his hand at the two, then turned around and walked outside. He changed into leather shoes at the entrance, put on the coat on the hanger, then pushed open the door and walked out. The bodyguards in black surrounded him, raising black umbrellas to cover his head. His body rushed into the rainforest, tall and straight. Even something like this couldn't make him lower his head and bend his back. Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga didn't send him out. They stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and watched Du Qing's receding figure. He's a good man. Lu Chaoga held Fang Yan's hand tightly and said aloud. He's a good man. Fang Yan held Lu Chaoga's hand tightly and said aloud. The wind didn't stop and the rain didn't stop, but tonight, the people of Huaqing received something even more shocking than the rainstorm. Du Qing turned himself in. Du Qing, the leader of Qinghong, the founder of Green Cloud Group, the king of Huaqing's underworld these years, was there something wrong with his brain? Why would he turn himself in? One must know, Du Qing's whitewash was very successful. Many years ago, he had been working hard to erase the brand of a gang on himself, handing over some of the overly sensitive businesses to others, while he used the funds and connections he had before to run normal businesses or gray businesses that were difficult to define. After experiencing the previous internal rebellion, he almost chased out all the dangerous people in Qinghong. It was also after that incident that Du Qing rarely appeared in the outside world, handing over all the big and small matters to his assistants and his adopted daughter Li Ye to handle. He could have spent the rest of his life comfortably, he could have lived an enviable retired life. Why did he turn himself in at this time? What else did he need to turn himself in for? Moreover, he had so many underlings, he could just find someone to take the blame for him, give him a large sum of money after he came out, and help him take care of his family, right? Wasn't that what everyone did? However, those who understood Du Qing knew that there must be a deeper meaning behind Du Qing turning himself in. For a person like Du Qing, ordinary people couldn't do anything to him. At that time, people who lived off others would feel very proud and could earn a lot of money. As the big brother of Qinghong, he had already seen the future situation and sold off the most profitable business in his hands. At that time, many people scolded him for being a big idiot. In the end, those people who lived off others were either shot to death, or were still in prison singing, "There's not a drop of oil in the cabbage" in their mouth. A few of them had good endings and good luck, but they were only in the business of transporting goods or contracting some sand and stone factories to support their families. How could they be compared to Du Qing, who was a big shot in the business world? Everyone understood one thing: Huaqing was about to change. A storm was brewing. Very quickly, more information was sent back to the people of Huaqing. Qinghong's people were like a pack of wolves, searching for news of Li Ye all over the world. It was said that Li Ye had been kidnapped. Then, they finally understood the reason why Du Qing turned himself in. However, since Li Ye had been kidnapped, they could just send more brothers to find her. At most, they could just spend some money to redeem her. Was there a need to turn himself in? What did turning himself in have to do with Li Yi being kidnapped? Even more people began to scold Du Qing for being an idiot. Turning himself in for a woman, a goddaughter. Those people held a glass of red wine in one hand and caressed the thigh of a young lady with the other. Their faces were full of mockery as they scolded. Only Du Qing would do such an idiot thing. He offended so many people, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to survive for more than a few days in prison, right? Chapter 777. The heavy rain had just stopped and the sky was still misty. The drainage system in the neighborhood was excellent. The rainwater that had accumulated up to their ankles had all been drained. After a night of rain, the cement road was as white as a mirror. The grass was greener and the autumn flowers were redder. Of course, due to the strong wind and heavy rain, some of the tender grass in the courtyard was blown away. A frangipani tree had its trunk broken. The trunk was broken, but there was still a piece of flesh attached to the tree. It looked like it was reluctant to part with its mother. The cleaner, who was responsible for cleaning the community and clearing the fallen leaves, found something strange. This community was a high-end villa community. Usually, at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, the community was as quiet as night. There were almost no signs of activity. Only after 9 o'clock would there be a busy state of cars coming and going. However, the situation today was a little special. It was only 5 o'clock, not even 6 o'clock. It should be the golden time when the nobles who had been busy the whole night were sleeping soundly or had just fallen asleep. However, there were a few luxury cars entering the neighborhood. Moreover, these luxury cars arrived at the same villa, the entrance of A11's courtyard. Fang Yen didn't sleep the whole night. He kept receiving information from all sides. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan hadn't returned yet, which meant that they hadn't found Li Yi's information yet. Du Qing had turned himself in, and the person in charge of searching for the hostages was Du Qing's trusted aide, Green Wolf. Last time when Qing Hong rebelled, Green Wolf guarded Du Qing and made a great contribution. With Qing Hong's veteran 13, Tiger Lord, and a bunch of others in prison, Green Wolf and the other rising stars naturally had the chance to stand out. Du Qing lost his freedom after he was imprisoned, so it was a little difficult for Green Wolf to handle the situation alone. Therefore, when Du Qing left, he instructed him to report to Fang Yen in time if there was any situation. When he wasn't around, Fang Yen would issue orders on his behalf. Green Wolf knew the relationship between Du Qing and Fang Yen, and he also knew Fang Yan's superb martial arts and ruthlessness. He responded to Du Qing's call to look for Fang Yen if there was any difficulty. Therefore, in the process of searching for the hostages, as long as there was any movement, they would report to Fang Yen. A suspicious vehicle has been spotted at the seafood pier. We've sent our brothers from the Heavenly Squad to check it out. The informant said that they found traces of the enemy in the abandoned factory in Baiyun district. Now they are asking the brothers of the Earth team to go and rescue them. The Xian team is on standby and ready to provide support. Doggy Li's people are starting to cause trouble. They want to snatch Qing Hong's place. Doggy Li and Master Qing have a grudge. Fang Yen did not feel impatient. On the contrary, he attached great importance to the information he collected each time. He organized the information one by one, and then kept marking and writing on the map of Flower City. From time to time, he would discuss something with Lu Chaoga. Lu Chaoga did not sleep for the whole night. Fang Yen urged her a few times, but she still insisted on staying by Fang Yan's side. When Fang Yan's teacup was empty, she filled it with water in time. Fang Yen was hungry, or rather, she felt that Fang Yen was hungry. She went to the kitchen and brought over a bowl of steamed buns with chili oil. If Fang Yen missed something, she would subtly remind him. When Fang Yan had something to discuss with her, she would give her opinion in time. Moreover, these opinions were quite important. The ancients all liked women who were beautiful. Lu Chaoga was not just a simple, beautiful woman. She could take charge of a region's affairs, and she could even hold a leadership position in a place where strong people gathered. Most of the information is invalid, and even all of the information is invalid. However, if there is one piece of information that is true, or if there is one piece of information that is true out of 10,000 pieces of information, it means that we have found Li Ye's location. This is very important to us and Li Ye, and it is also very important to Du Qing. This was how Fang Yan explained to Lu Chaoga. Du Qing was his ally and he was his brother. The reason why Fang Yan was able to stabilize the foundation of Flower City was closely related to Du Qing's help. Without the help of Du Qing's tens of thousands of green and red disciples, how could he know everything that was happening in Flower City? If the generals were to start a war against Fang Yan, Du Qing would be the best breakthrough point and target. Du Qing started his career from the shadows. Although green and red had been shuffled several times, how could he prove that he had cleaned up everything? Especially Du Qing himself. Everyone knew that he was the biggest gangster leader in Flower City back then. He was still the same. You're such a big shot, yet you've never done anything illegal before? Had he never shot someone in the dark and buried someone in a deep hole? No? Who would believe you if you said you hadn't? So many of your brothers had gone in, but you, as the leader, were pure and clean, looking like the reincarnation of a good person. Did you think everyone else was an idiot? If it was a normal day, even if others knew about Du Qing's background, they would be helpless against him. However, it just had to be at this moment. When Li Ye had been kidnapped, Du Qing had no choice but to pinch his nose and make some compromises. For example, turning himself in. Fang Yan did not sleep for the entire night, and Lanshan Valley's willow tree also woke up very early. The news of Li Ye being kidnapped and Du Qing turning himself in had already spread to everyone's ears. How could they not have received the news? Regardless of whether they liked Du Qing, or whether they cared about this gang leader who was born in the wilderness, they were on the same side as Du Qing. Since something had happened to an important person on their side, they naturally had to discuss it with Fang Yan, the core figure. Jiang Shangxin followed closely behind them. Not long after Jiang Shangxin left last night, Du Qing came to visit and made the decision to turn himself in. She went back to take a shower, and before she could lie on the bed, she received the shocking news of Du Qing turning himself in. At that moment, she wanted to rush over to see Fang Yan again. However, she thought about it and decided to lie on the bed for a while. She slept all the way until 5 in the morning before she rushed over with her chauffeur and bodyguards. Is it necessary to turn himself in? Jiang Shangxin's face was full of worry. Is there no other solution? It's not that there isn't. Fang Yan scratched his head. Although he did not sleep for the entire night, he seemed to be in good spirits. However, there was a layer of oil on his face and hair, and he did not look very clean and neat. But this is the safest method. Du Qing is too important to us. Lan Shanggu raised his thick eyebrows and said, if he's not around, Qing Hong will not be able to play its role. We do not have Qing Hong's help. If we only rely on our own intelligence channels, we will need to spend a lot more time on many things that happen and develop. Moreover, if those people use Li Ye as a threat to get Du Qing to help them, they won't. Fang Yan said firmly. Du Qing won't. Lan Shanggu took a look at Fang Yan and did not say anything else. It would be a taboo to say something too explicit. You said that Du Qing might be instigated by others, but what evidence do you have? If Du Qing himself or Du Qing's people heard what you said, what kind of attitude would they have towards you in the future? However, what Lan Shanggu did not understand was why Fang Yan trusted Du Qing so much. That's strange too. Jiang Shangxin said, since they kidnapped Li Ye, They could totally ask Du Qing to stand on their side. Why did they send Du Qing to prison? Firstly, it's impossible for Du Qing to stand on their side. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Shangxin and explained patiently. Secondly, they won't believe Du Qing. Du Qing is our friend, they would rather destroy him than use him. That would only increase the number of variables. Therefore, after Du Qing confirmed that Liya was kidnapped, his only choice was to turn himself in, let them see it with their own eyes and believe that Du Qing would no longer participate in this war. They have always been so suspicious, Jiang Shangxin said with a face full of disdain. Everyone present knew who she was referring to by they. Others might not know the people from the Jiang family that well, but Jiang Shangxin's understanding of them was deep and ingrained. No one found it strange that this sentence came out of her mouth. Lan Shanggu nodded and said, "This is going to be a tough battle. Things have just started, and we don't know how much manpower and resources the Jiang family will invest in this matter. If the entire Jiang family comes forward, we can only passively take a beating. We have been living in a remote corner and have made a small fortune these few years. But to go against a giant like the Jiang family, who have not fallen for hundreds of years, there is really no possibility of winning. But we can't just surrender, right?" Lu Shu, who had been sitting in the corner of the sofa in silence, said aloud. Lan Shanggu's face was full of sarcasm as he said, "I'm just analyzing the situation that we are going to face. If we are only facing the two brothers, Jiang Junling and General Xing, we can definitely fight with them. But if the entire Jiang family is mobilized, with just the few of us here, what do you think our chances are? I hope that the Lu family can withstand the pressure and not run away when the time comes." Lu Shu glanced at Lan Shanggu and said, "The Lu family will do what they are supposed to do, but it's hard to say if the Lan family can do what they are supposed to do. Don't tell me that the old master of the Lan family is thinking of taking back the power of the Lan family? It was a good plan. When things are going smoothly, they will follow along and take advantage. Once they are in danger, they will immediately jump out and cut off all ties with their own grandson to preserve their strength." Lan Shanggu stared at Lu Shu with a dark and fierce gaze and said in a hoarse voice, "Lu Shu, I know that you are willing to be a mad dog, but there is no need to bite anyone you see, right?" Chapter 778. Mad Dog. Lu Shu touched the wolf mask on his face. Ever since his face was cut, he was never willing to show his injured face to others. Whenever he went out, he would wear a sinister wolf mask on his face. Today was no exception. Normal people can tell that I'm just doubting them. It's not like the Lan clan hasn't done such things before. Normal people know that I left the Lan clan long ago to start my own business, Lan Shanggu said with a stern look. That's right. Because of the success of your business, your family's old man rewarded you with all the shares of the Longtu group. Even though Lu Shu's face was covered by the wolf mask, everyone present could still feel the strong sense of ridicule in his words. None of us here are stupid. Can you stop playing those little tricks of yours? Lan Shanggu grinned and said, "Then what do you think we should do? Du Qing has already been crippled. The war has just started and we've already suffered heavy losses. However, this time, whether we're facing a person or a clan, we need to give it our all and not have any wishful thinking. If the few of us here can't work together, we might be defeated by them one by one. By then, we won't have any chance. Do you think that as long as we give it our all, we will have a chance to win?" Jiang Shangxin looked at Lu Shu and asked. Perhaps it was because he was wearing that strange mask, or perhaps it was because of his personality. This man had a sinister and sly aura. It made people feel a chill down their spines. If it wasn't for Fang Yan, Jiang Shangxin really wouldn't be willing to sit together with such a weirdo and chat. "No," Lu Shu said without hesitation. "Then why do you still want us to fight with them?" "Only by fighting with them, only by making them pay the price, will they be able to face our power seriously. Only then will we be able to make them feel fear and self-doubt about their own actions. It's normal for them to annihilate our clan, but in their minds it's naturally something that's convenient and doesn't need to go to war. However, if they encounter intense attacks every time they make a move, and the price they pay is getting bigger and bigger, then they have no choice but to be cautious. If they force it, it will only give opportunities to their competitors. But have you ever thought that if the Jiang family were to face fierce resistance, it would only stimulate their ferocity? I know the Jiang family, they care too much about their face. As long as they took action, they would not rest until one of them was dead. No matter how great the price they had to crush their opponent. Otherwise, they would become the laughingstock of others. They would never do such a thing. What's the difference? Lu Shu's gaze swept past Jiang Shangxin. He looked at Fang Yan and said, since they have already made their move, they will definitely not stop until they kill us. Since this is the case, do we have a better choice? Lan Shanggu looked at the willow tree and said with a smile, so your Lu clan is going to fight to the death with the Jiang clan? That depends on your attitude towards this matter. Lu Shu's voice was cold as he said, if you fight against the Jiang family with all your strength, the Lu clan will definitely not stay out of this. If you only bring out the strength of one person, the Lu clan will definitely not risk their entire clan's strength to fight to the death with others. When the Lu clan is dead or crippled, you will rise again and cling onto the thighs of the Jiang family. The Lu clan will definitely not do such a thing. If we die together. If we live together. If you can cling onto the thighs of the Jiang family, the Lu clan can do the same. The few people present were all trusted subordinates of Fang Yan in Huaqing. Before the battle began, these people had already started arguing. Not only did they represent individuals, but they also represented a family that was, and still is, very prominent. Was the interest of the clan the same as the interest of the clan? Would the clan be willing to bet on the future of the clan to stand with them? These matters were too complicated. Even Fang Yan did not have any better solutions. As they attacked each other with their tongues, Fang Yan held his teacup and drank his tea quietly. He did not stop them or make a sound. He only looked at them quietly. It was as if he was trying to find some clues from their intense or harsh words. It was only when he heard the willow tree say, if we die together. If we live together. That Fang Yan finally snapped out of his dazed state. Fang Yan looked at the willow tree, then looked at Lan Shanggu and Jiang Shangxin, who were sitting at the side. He smiled and said, if we are to live, we will naturally live together. However, if we are to die, I hope that I will die alone. Young master, don't say such things, Lan Shanggu hurriedly stopped him. We are all comrades on the same boat. If the boat is sunk, who can survive? I don't mean that, the willow tree also explained. I just hope that everyone can be tied together and not be separated by others. My life was saved by you. Jiang Shangxin giggled and said, if it wasn't for you, I might have died in Paris. Don't be angry with me, Sister Lu. My life is yours, you can take it any time you want. Jiang Shangxin chuckled. I'm not angry. Lu Chaoga looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, mine too. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, there is one thing we must admit. The reason why the Jiang clan launched this attack is because they hate me the most. Of course, if it was only because they hate me, they wouldn't be willing to spend so much capital to do this. Or is it because of interest? If I'm not around, can you protect the Rubik's Cube and Chaoyan's interests? I am fighting with the Jiang family to the death. You are fighting with the Jiang family for interest. Even if you lose, you will only lose some interest. Finding someone to say some soft words and give up some interests is something that everyone can accept. So, I will still say the same thing. If I need to die, let me die alone. However, if you are willing to stand with me and do something to protect your interests, I will be very grateful. Lan Shanggu's eyes flickered. He finally made up his mind and said, "Master, before I say that, I need to go back and discuss with the old master." Fang Yin nodded and said, "I understand." The willow tree was the first to express his opinion. He said, "Life and death are up to fate. As long as the Lu family can offer us, we will definitely not be stingy. This time, let the Lu family be the vanguard." Jiang Shangxin looked at Fang Yin and said, "I don't have anything to offer. The only thing I have is what you have given me. I can only fight to the death." Lu Chaoga did not say anything. She only held onto Fang Yan's hand tightly. He was alive. He was already alive. He was dead. He was already dead. Fang Yan smiled and raised the teacup in his hand. He said, "The world is so beautiful. Everyone should try their best to live. In order to live." Everyone raised their teacups and gently clinked with Fang Yan's teacup. At noon, the Jiang family's real attack finally came. First, the Lu family's cargo ship was seized by the coast police. They said that someone reported them for smuggling. Li Mingzhu, the person in charge of the shipping company, went to negotiate with the coast police, but they refused to budge. Li Mingzhu agreed to let them inspect the ship to prove their company's innocence. However, the coast police said that there were too many ships in front of them. They might not be able to inspect them in a short time. One had to know that there was a delivery date for cargo ship. If they could not deliver the goods within the specified time, they would have to pay a large sum of compensation. They seized more than 100 cargo ships and more than 10,000 containers of the Lu family. They almost seized the entire shipping company that the Lu family controlled. Not to mention the large sum of compensation that the Lu family had to pay to their customers if they could not deliver the goods within the specified time. Just the daily losses of the shipping company was already an astronomical figure. The Lu family started off by shipping and shipping. They started from this link and caused the collapse of the entire industry chain. As long as they did not let go, the Lu family would not be able to deliver the goods. If they did not deliver the goods, they would have to pay double the compensation. More importantly, all the customers would understand that there was no guarantee of safety when working with the Lu family. In the future, which company would be willing to work with the Lu family and ask them to transport goods? This would be a fatal blow to the Lu family. Lan Shanggu did not have a good time either. After he left the Lan family, he established a trading company. In the past few years, he helped Chao Yan to sell the Rubik's Cube products. The company expanded rapidly and was now starting to take shape. However, today the trading company was suddenly seized. It was said that they were involved in tax evasion. Fang Yan was not sure if Lan Shanggu had evaded taxes. However, to be honest, how many companies in Huaxia did not evade taxes? Even the staff of the government department were trying to find invoices so that they could be reimbursed. The reason why Lan Shanggu was targeted was because someone wanted to touch them. The sales company was investigated and the sales channel was broken. This naturally affected the delivery and sales of the Rubik's Cube. It affected the purchase of consumers and the demand of the market. Lan Shanggu was not the only one in trouble. Even the Lan family was hit by them. Two of the listed companies controlled by the Lan family were exposed to scandals. The moment the market opened, their prices fell. Based on the current trend, it would be difficult for them to recover in a short period of time. When that happened, the stocks of the Lan family would be no different from waste paper. What made Fang Yan the most furious was that Jiang Shangxin met with a car accident when she went to Longtu Group to control the overall situation. Chapter 779. After Shangxin left Fang Yan's side, she went straight to work at Longtu Group. The more chaotic the situation was, the more they needed to be in charge of the headquarters. Since the Jiang family had failed to acquire the shares of Longtu Group from Shangxin, they naturally wouldn't show any mercy to this company. The Lan family and the Lu family were facing a huge crisis, and it was still unknown how they were going to deal with Longtu Group. However, the more unknown it was, the more worried and uneasy it was. When Jiang Shangxin's car turned left on Donghu Road, a truck full of furniture ran the red light and crashed into the side of the Mercedes-Benz that Jiang Shangxin was in. Luckily, Shangxin discovered it in time and hurriedly instructed the driver to crash into the green belt in the middle of the road. The front of the truck broke the railing in the middle of the green belt, then it turned around and fled in the opposite direction. The truck couldn't stop in time and crashed into the green belt. The body of the truck tilted, and the entire car overturned in the middle of the road. The large furniture on the car was scattered all over the ground, and the traffic on the entire road was blocked. Jiang Shangxin's bodyguards rushed over and wanted to control the truck driver. However, by the time they arrived, the truck driver had already disappeared. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. When Jiang Shangxin called Fang Yan to talk about this, Fang Yan told her not to go to the office and to find a safe place to stay. Jiang Shangxin insisted on going and said that if she was scared off today, she would fall into the trap of the people behind the scenes. Jiang Shangxin gritted her teeth when she talked about those people. It seemed that this assassination incident had made her hate her family to the core. Fang Yan had no choice but to send a group of elites from Green Wolf to Longtu Group to be in charge of Jiang Shangxin's safety. Green Wolf agreed to Fang Yan's words and immediately sent a group of people to Longtu Group to carry out the mission. Fortunately, Green Wolf had a strong foundation. Otherwise, under the situation where they needed manpower in all aspects, their small business wouldn't be able to hold on. Compared to the huge crisis encountered by the Lan and Lu families, Chaoyan technology was calm. Nothing unusual had happened. It was as if the Jiang family had deliberately forgotten about it, or they simply did not know the relationship between Fang Yan and Chaoyan technology. However, in the eyes of Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga, this was not a lucky thing. Everyone knew that Chaoyan technology belonged to Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga, as well as the Qin family. If the Jiang family made a move against Chaoyan technology, they would naturally anger the Qin family and force the Qin family to retaliate. This was clearly unwise. The Jiang family didn't touch Chaoyan technology because they didn't want to anger the Qin family. However, another possibility could not be ruled out. The Jiang family and the Qin family had reached a consensus, sacrificing Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga in exchange for control of the entire Chaoyan technology. Chaoyan technology had the Rubik's Cube, which was coveted by the energy industry all over the world. The Rubik's Cube was a hen that could continuously lay golden eggs. Even a family like the Qin family could not resist the strong temptation it emitted. If the Qin family had really reached a secret agreement with the Jiang family, it would be a disaster for Fang Yan. Don't think too badly of the outcome. Looking at Fang Yan frowning in front of the map of Huaqing, Lu Chaoga's heart ached. She tried to persuade him. Maybe they are just afraid of angering the Qin family. With Chaoyan Technology's current important position in the Qin family's entire industry layout, attacking Chaoyan is equivalent to attacking the Qin family. The Qin family will definitely not tolerate it. They are very cautious. Lu Chaoga did not go to Chaoyan Technology to oversee things. After Jiang Shangxin got into a car accident on her way to work, Fang Yan stopped Lu Chaoga from going to work. He didn't want Lu Chaoga to encounter the same thing again. He didn't dare to take the risk. He could lose, but he would never gamble with the lives of Lu Chaoga and the people close to him. Moreover, even if Lu Chaoga didn't go, Chaoyan Technology could still hold on. The people from the Qin family were all at their posts. Even if the Jiang family attacked Chaoyan, the wealthy families would have a common language. I need to make a trip to the Yan capital, Fang Yan said in a low voice. I need to go to the Qin family. I want to talk to them. Lu Chaoga nodded and said, Okay, you are going to talk to them. It was pitch black and gloomy. There was also a faint smell of blood in the air. Du Qing had lived on the edge of a knife for almost half of his life, so he was very familiar with the smell of blood. According to Du Qing's status, he shouldn't have been brought to such a detention room to be interrogated. He should have had better conditions. The connections he had made in Huaqing would have stood up for him and treated him as a distinguished guest. This was the happy prison life of a gang leader. For those with money and power, there was a world of difference between outside and inside prison. But similarly, inside prison, there was a world of difference between their lives and those of ordinary prisoners. The treatment they received in prison was a life that many prisoners couldn't enjoy on the outside. However, Du Qing obviously couldn't enjoy these benefits. After he entered the building, he was locked into a separate and sealed room. The room was narrow. Other than a broken bucket for prisoners to relieve themselves, there was nothing else. There was no table, chair, or bed. He could only rest and sleep on the floor. Because the room was too small, he couldn't straighten his body. He had to bend his waist when he slept. Du Qing didn't have any objections. He found a clean place and sat down. Then, he closed his eyes and began to rest. The night was silent. No one came to disturb him. After dawn, he was brought to this slightly larger interrogation room. Du Qing knew that the show had begun. When he was still a lackey, he would occasionally be arrested and locked up for a few days. Now that he thought about it, how many years had it been since he came to this kind of place? 10 years? Or 20 years? What a distant memory! Clang! The iron door of the interrogation room was pushed open. A thin man wearing glasses walked in. 2 tall men in uniform followed behind. After they came in, the iron door behind them closed with a clang. The man with glasses stood in front of Du Qing and looked down at him. He smiled and said, "Boss Du, long time no see. You're still as elegant as ever." Du Qing glanced at the man with glasses and said in a deep voice, "How can a down-and-out prisoner be called a boss? Captain Wang, don't make fun of me. Boss Du is too modest. Who doesn't know that you're the underground king of Huaqing? You can summon tens of thousands of underlings to work for you with a stomp of your foot. Every day you make a lot of money. Who doesn't give you some face?" Wang Dequan adjusted the glasses on the bridge of his nose and said jokingly, "I don't get it. I really don't get it. The mighty Boss Du came to the police station to turn himself in, and even fell into my hands. Boss Du, do you still remember our friendship in the past?" "I remember." Du Qing nodded. "Back then, you came to my place to collect protection fees. My brothers lifted you up and threw you out. Du Qing, you didn't think that you would end up like this, did you?" Wang Dequan said coldly with a dark look in his eyes. "Why wouldn't I?" Du Qing smiled lightly. "In our line of work, we can be killed by a bullet at any time. Being cut off or having our head blown off, what kind of ending haven't I thought about? Now I'm just sitting at a place I used to come to. It's already much better than I thought." "Du Qing, do you think you're just here to sit? Do you know who you've offended?" Wang Dequan laughed and said, "You've made friends with so many bigwigs. Why didn't anyone call to intercede for you this time? Think about it, there are hundreds of people in this bureau. Why is it that it's my turn to interrogate you? Du Qing, you're about to die, don't you know?" Du Qing looked at Wang Dequan and said, I know some things better than you. You can ask, I'll tell you everything I can, and I won't say a word that I can't say." Wang Dequan threw a file in his hand on the iron table in front of Du Qing and said, "Du Qing, this is the record of your surrender. Think about it, did you miss anything?" Du Qing didn't touch the documents and said, "I've said everything that should be said." "Think about it again." Wang Dequan took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up, saying, "Think about it carefully. If you can't think of it, my subordinates are happy to help you recall. Our conditions here are simple. Some of our interrogation methods and tools are not as advanced and ruthless as your guys who play dirty, but, if Boss Du is willing to give us some advice, I think we will definitely improve. Don't you think so? Du Qing looked up at Wang Dequan and said, I know what you want. Boss Du is one of the smart people in Huaqing, of course you know what I want. You want me to bite people. Bite people who don't matter. How can you say people who don't matter? He's a big shot in Huaqing, even Boss Du has to follow his lead. I can't afford to offend this kind of person. However, since he has a close relationship with Boss Du, how could he not have a part in the things you've done? Don't you think so? I did it. Du Qing's fingers lightly tapped on the table and said, It has nothing to do with him. You see, you're really not smart to say that. Wang Dequan shook his head and sighed. He gave a look, and immediately a tall man pressed a stack of newspapers on Du Qing's back. Another policeman held a metal rod and smashed it on the newspapers. Bang! The newspapers made a dull sound, and Du Qing's body suddenly fell forward. Du Qing's chest bumped against the metal table, but he quickly straightened his back and straightened his spine. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looked at Wang Dequan and said, You don't care. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.